Welcome to the November 9th, 2021 regular meeting of the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors. Madam Clerk, closed session, please.
Item number 1, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, conference with real property negotiator regarding price and terms of payment for the following properties affected by the State Route 4 Wagon Trail Realignment Project Phase 1. County negotiators are Robert Packinger and Matt Satow, properties Tiscornia Ranches, LP. APN numbers 053-001-018, 053-001-019, 053-007-011, 053-007-031, 053-007 and -032, 053-008-060. Item number 2, pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, conference with County Designated Labor Negotiators Judy Hawkins, Nick Marvin, and Shay Johnson regarding the following employee organization, Calaveras County Public Safety Employees Association, CCP-SEA. Item number 2, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D2, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, one case.
Any public comment on any one of these items or all of these items?
There is no public comment online.
Any in the audience? No? Thank you. We'll be moving into closed session. Welcome back to the November 9th, 2021 regular meeting of the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors.
Mr. Stoffer, I'm hearing to here. Robin, how do I cut him off? He's still my partner.
It's all right, Ms. Callaway. We'll hold the pledge until you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Stoffer.
Thank you. Will everyone please join me for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, can we have a report out on closed session? We'll report out on closed session prior to the public hearing on redistricting. Thank you. My apologies. With that, staff announcements. This is a time for county staff to provide updates of upcoming county events that may be of interest to the public. Is there any staff out there that would like to make any comments or announcements?
I do not have any staff online.
Thank you very much, Robin. We'll move on to general public comment. Any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on the consent or regular agendas may be addressed during the public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is completed before the 30-minute allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the next order of business. If public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued as the last item of business in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of comments to be heard. Is there anybody in the audience that would like? Mr. Singh.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is CJ Singh. I'm the Manager of Philanthropy at the Mark Twain Medical Center Foundation. I would like to cordially invite you and the community to our annual tree lighting on December 1st at 5:30 p.m. across the ways from the CHP and DMV parking lot. Invitations have been dropped off at the CAO's office and are going to be sent out via mail. You can go online to supportmarktwain.org to see the full program. There is also a remembering and honoring tribute light that you can purchase in honor of a family member that has passed. And it's one of those community events that we hope that you guys can join us with. For the past 18 months, we've all kind of been bunkered at home, as you can see with the plexiglass, not being able to meet with each other. This is going to be a safe and socially distanced event, and we hope that everybody in the community can join us on that day. And if you can't join us in person, we'll also have a virtual component on Facebook and our website. Thank you.
Thank you, CJ. My apologies. I skipped our recognition and acknowledgements. I'm going to go ahead and let everyone finish off public comment, and then we'll move on to the item prior, backwards, or something like that.
Good morning, Marty Crane.
Ms. Crane.
It's exciting how we're all learning new things all the time. Some of us a little quicker than others, but I just wanted to say, give a shout out to Supervisor Stopper. The cattle issue. At first, it was just a few cows in our neighborhood, just a few cows, and I thought, hey, we live in the country, this is good. But it just kept growing and growing faster and faster, and small space, major cows, horses, baby, I mean, it was out of control, a trailer on there, and it looked like it showed no signs of stopping. Thank you for addressing that. So now the neighbors are calming down. And I think it was above a little creek, if I'm not sure. There's a little creek right there. So anyway, thank you for addressing that.
Thank you, Ms. Crane.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kim.
As a former county employee, one of the most common words heard from HR and other departments over the years is liability. Calaveras County Animal Services cannot foster animals due to liability, although most other counties allow it. Children cannot come sit outside the dogs' cages and read to them, liability, although most other counties allow it. Animals can't be taken to adoption events, liability, again, most other counties allow it. I can certainly understand the concern of liability, given that the county is self-insured. But the board may not be aware of several incidents recently at the shelter that raise the issue of liability. First, a released detainee broke into the shelter to retrieve his dog that was placed there when he was arrested. He did not recover his animal as he was rearrested, but he damaged the tool shed and rendered one of the kennels useless. Imagine the liability if he'd been injured during that act. He probably would have sued, and he probably would have won. Second, an unfortunate and tragic incident occurred when a dog got away from one of the animal control officers, was hit and killed on the highway. Imagine the liability if that dog had caused an accident, injuring somebody or even causing death. Can the county afford that type of liability? Recently, a goat escaped, was found in someone's yard. 3 or 4 other dogs have gotten loose, never again to be seen. What if those animals injured somebody? Liability. We need a new shelter, everyone agrees. But first we need to fence the 6.9 acres of animal services property. Almost every other county, animal control is fenced. Released prisoners cross that property all the time. Imagine the liability if one of them gets bitten by a dog or falls and trips. The county would be sued. Imagine the liability if a member of the public gets bitten by a loose dog. Lawsuit. I don't blame the animal control officer for the dog escaping. Accidents happen. But if the property was fenced, not only would the animals be safer, but the public as well, and a huge liability would be removed from the county. It's a potential fiscal crisis waiting to happen. Please assign funds to eliminate this liability to the county. Ask for federal infrastructure funds to address the issue. Assign some of the $600,000 to secure a fence, whatever it takes, because I don't think the county can afford that type of liability. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Alex Sagewalker, and I am here on behalf of the shelter dogs at Calaveras County Animal Services. I have been a volunteer dog walker for about 2.5 years. When I enter the kennels in the early morning, the dogs are desperate. It is depressing and overwhelming. The sound is deafening, and you can imagine how it must sound to the dogs with the sensitive hearing. That is how we humans experience this. We humans only have to endure this for a short time as we try to get our dog leashed up and out of there as fast as possible. Sometimes they are literally climbing the walls because they have been caged up for the last 23 and a half hours. Then we have to walk the gauntlet of the other dogs barking at us, which either scares the heck out of our dog or activates our dog to want to attack the dogs barking at us from their cages. Volunteers go in there day after day, pulling these cramped up dogs out, mostly large dogs, to give them 30 to 40 minutes of walking because it is so impacted that that's all the time that we have. Letting them finally be able to relieve themselves. Yes, most of the dogs hold it all day and all night waiting for someone to let them out in the morning. We now have German Shepherds, Anatolian Shepherds, Rottweilers, and mixed breed large dogs. This is not the exception. As I was leaving there yesterday, my fellow colleague and friend said, please don't forget to tell them that these conditions are literally driving some of the dogs insane and sometimes turning friendly dogs into aggressive dogs. I worked with one such dog today, a young German Shepherd who is having a meltdown being caged up. And there is another male German Shepherd, extra large, who is also under severe mental stress being in such cramped conditions. Besides the dogs having to endure such hideous conditions, the people who work there and the volunteers also have to be in this environment. I know people who previously volunteered who can no longer tolerate seeing the animals in such a depressing situation. The staff there is amazing at the shelter. They are hardworking, compassionate, and give the animals as much as they can to make them feel safe. And I especially want to mention Stacy and Mona. I am in awe of them being able to give so much of themselves day after day. My reason for being here is to gather information on how I can participate in the committee who is overseeing the construction of this new facility. If there is an ad hoc position for a member of the public on this committee, I would like to be that person. It is essential that in the building of this new facility that the living quarters for these dogs be much larger with access to outdoor runs. And I invite all of you supervisors to come visit the shelter any morning of the week at 7:30 to experience this for yourselves.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I have copies of this letter if...
Any further comment from the audience? And when you have time, Ms. Clerk, if there's anybody out there that's dialing in, thank you for handing those out.
There is no public comment online.
Thank you. With that, we'll move back to recognition and acknowledgements. Mr. Garamendi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'll turn on this before I get in trouble. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Today we're doing a proclamation recognizing November 11th, 2021 as Veterans Day. A lot of veterans activities going on in our county this week, and if anybody can attend them, I think it's always great. Supervisor Toffanelli and the West Calaveras Rotary did a great event on Saturday, which was an honor to attend. Thank you very much, Supervisor Toffanelli. And our Veterans Services officers are here today as well. So, with no further ado, I'll read the proclamation. Whereas the 11th day of the 11th month at the 11th hour in 1918 marked the end of World War I, and whereas Congress approved an act on May 13, 1938, that the 11th of November should be a legal holiday and should be known as Armistice Day, and on June 1st, 1954, Congress approved an act changing the name of Veterans Day in order to honor veterans of all our nation's wars. And whereas President Dwight D. Eisenhower proclaimed on October 11, 1954, On that day, let us solemnly remember the sacrifices of all those who fought so valiantly on the seas, in the air, and on foreign shores to preserve our heritage of freedom. And while all who serve take the same oath to support and defend our country, no veteran service is insignificant, even if they do not see combat. And currently there are 19 million veterans living in the United States, and approximately 5,000 of them currently live in Calaveras County, which I believe is significantly higher than the population as a whole. So, is there any public comment on this item?
Good morning, Chair Stopper, members of the board. I'm Brian Galicia, Calaveras County Veteran Service Officer. As we prepare to celebrate the veterans in our community on Veterans Day, I would like to take a moment to remember those veterans who have come before us. I refer to the almost 1,400 veterans interred in the various cemeteries in Calaveras County. These heroes include 29 who served in the Army Air Corps, 543 who served in the Army, 311 who served in the Navy, 84 who served in the Marine Corps, 10 who served in the Merchant Marines, 71 who served in the Air Force, and 20 who served in the Coast Guard. And of these brave souls, 56 served in Vietnam, 117 served in the Korean War, 520 served in World War II, 124 served in World War I, 6 served in the Spanish-American War, 108 served in the Civil War, including 8 Confederate soldiers, and 53 served in the Mexican War of 1846. As you can see, our veterans' history dates back to before Calaveras County came into existence. I would like to highlight one particular veteran who came from Angels Camp who exemplifies the veterans of Calaveras County. 22-year-old U.S. Navy Petty Officer Herbert A. Calcaterra served during World War II aboard the submarine USS Pompano SS-181. On September 4th, 1942, the Pompano, on its way to Midway, sighted an armed enemy ship. The Pompano surfaced and engaged with deck guns, sinking the enemy vessel within an hour. Unfortunately, during this firefight, Petty Officer Calcaterra lost his life. He was awarded the Silver Star and the Purple Heart posthumously. The following transcription of a January 16, 1943 letter from the Secretary of the Navy. The President of the United States takes pleasure in presenting the Silver Star Medal posthumously to Herbert A. Calcaterra, Motor Machinist Mate, First Class, U.S. Navy, for service as set forth in the following citation. For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity as a member of a 3-inch gun crew aboard USS Pompano during action against an armed enemy patrol ship. Remaining at his exposed station in the face of hostile machine gun fire, Calcaterra, with cool courage and utter disregard for his own personal safety, manned his gun until he was fatally wounded. This heroic devotion to duty, maintained at great risk in the face of grave danger, was in keeping with the highest traditions of the U.S. Naval Service. He gallantly gave up his life in the defense of his country. In honor of his heroism, in July of 1943, a U.S. Navy warship was named for him. The USS Calcaterra DE-390 was an Edsel-class destroyer escort. Please join me in honoring the current and past veterans this Veterans Day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. Is there other public comment? Well, thank you very much. I'm very proud of the work we're doing with our veterans in this county, and I'm proud of our department heads. I see Air Force veteran Packinger back there in the back of the room, and I know Doug Oliver and others have served, so very proud to be part of this team. So therefore, I will ask for a motion to approve this proclamation.
I would gladly move it.
Moved by Supervisor Toffenelli, second.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Fallendorf. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Now therefore be it proclaimed, Calaveras County Board of Supervisors proclaims Thursday, November 11th, 2021 as Veterans Day and encourages its residents to celebrate our veterans and show their gratitude as appropriate. Thank you very much. Where do you want me to do this? Yes.
Yes.
Right, come on.
That concludes to our consent agenda. Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested party may request removal of an item from the consent agenda for later discussion. Is there any staff members that would like to pull an item? Board members? Any member of the public that would like to pull an item? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move this item, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Toffenelli.
Second.
Thank you. A second by Supervisor Callaway. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. Looks like you're going to be right about 11 o'clock.
We can read real slow.
We have some extra time.
Yes, we do. I'm trying to turn to the right page for that. I just need to flip it over 3 times. Regular agenda. Item 20 is a resolution, economic and community development, convene a public comment period to review Calaveras County 5-year plan for permanent local housing allocation program funds, and adopt a resolution authorizing the application for and acceptance of the Calaveras County allocation award resulting in revenue of $539,081 for years 2019-20 and 2020-21, with anticipated additional revenue in the amount of $699,784 for years 2021-22, 2022-23, and 2023-24 to be expended by June 30th, 2024. Ms. Galino and Ms. Kimball, good to see you both.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Stopper, Honorable Board, Kathy Galino, Economic and Community Development Director, and Lee Kimball.
Good morning.
If we could take a 5-minute recess, I can set up the presentation that we have for you.
Absolutely, thank you. Welcome back. We opened the regular meeting item, so Ms. Galino, Ms. Kimball, please.
It's on. Okay. Good morning, Honorable Chair Stopper and Board. We're here with Lee Kimball, who's amazing, to give you a quick presentation on the permanent local housing allocation and opening the public hearing. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Kimball.
Good morning. Calaveras County has an opportunity to draw down funds that are collected whenever a house is sold. In California, a $75 recording fee is collected, and that's put into a pot, and then it's made available to each of the counties through 2 different ways. One is not competitive. It's called formula allocation, and we wanted to talk to you more about that today in that opportunity. Our housing element demonstrates, and you can see it on the slide in front of you, that we have over an 8-year period a need to create a minimum of 1,096 housing units to be able to keep up with growing demand. I don't believe that number addresses the current shortage in addition. This table is right from our housing element, and it shows the income levels where what the anticipated growth is needed. And as you can see, the greatest number is aimed at workforce housing. The PLHA funding allows us to target incentivizing development of workforce housing, and that's what we're going to suggest as the strategy. The funding can be used for homeless and other types of housing needs, but it also allows us to create low-interest loans for people who want to develop. So we're going to put forward to you a 5-year plan. So what we're proposing is that we make the 5-year plan to be, and let me just backtrack a little bit here. The funds are already available for the first 2 years of the 5 years. It started in 2019, so that money is already available, as is the following year. In the 3 remaining years, we'll find out as the funds are collected. When we submit and approve a 5-year plan, it allows us to draw down all 5 years, even though 2 years are already passed. So we're suggesting that of the allowable activities that we focus on pre-development, development, acquisition, and our preservation of affordable rental or ownership housing, including ADUs, accessory dwelling units, which, as you know, we're working on a project for that now. This will help meet the growing need for workforce housing in our county. And workforce housing, or the suggested level for these funds, is at 120% of area median income. And that means people who earn up to $98,040 a year could qualify for this housing. Construction costs can include site preparation, utility connections, foundations, engineering, permitting fees, in addition to material and labor for units. Our plan suggests 85% of the funding be made directly available as very low interest loans, not more than 3%, but we have not set it up. That will be done after the award. 10% to be utilized for technical assistance for people to be able to get to and apply for the loans, and 5% for the administrative cost of managing these loans. We anticipate that a minimum of 21 affordable workforce housing units will be developed as a result of accepting this funding. So this is what a little bit of the 5-year plan looks like right out of the application. And you can see that just exactly what we're saying for 2019, the amount of money that's already there for us, and for 2020. So we're just over $500,000 already available. It's anticipated that by the end of this 5-year stretch, there'll be $1.2 million available in this non-competitive funding pot. After we receive the award, if it is approved, we will develop criteria for projects and loans working with a committee that will include developers and utility districts as well as staff. We'll convene a call for projects. We'll identify eligible projects. We'll provide technical assistance to the developers for the loan program documents and reporting. And we'll provide ongoing technical support as needed through the completion of those projects. As the loans are repaid, Calaveras County will reutilize PLHA funding for additional eligible activities that includes, but isn't limited to, incentivizing more development that addresses our housing need, accessibility modifications in lower income owner-occupied housing, will acquire and rehabilitate foreclosed or vacant homes and apartments, and homeownership opportunities, not limited to, but such as down payment assistance. For you to see the complete reuse plan, we're going to be putting that on the county's home webpage so you can see the complete plan as well as the reuse plan
And the presentation.
and this presentation. Any questions or comments? We're going to be entering a 30-day comment period. Can be sent to either Kathy or I at the contact information on this screen. Again, will be available on the county's website. Thank you.
It says open a public comment period. I didn't read anything about a public hearing, but I can open a public hearing if I need to. Is that correct, Ms. Edwards?
That's correct. It's a public comment period for 30 days that's opening today. It's not a public hearing.
It's not a public hearing. Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. My apologies for interrupting, Ms. Kimball. Thank you very much. Any board questions? I see Ms. Callaway's light on to the left and Mr. Garamindi's. Ms. Callaway? You just turned it off.
How did we get the retroactive payments for 19 and 20?
So our 5-year plan includes that. So once we submit the plan, and we've already worked with technical assistance to make sure we're within their guidelines, then those funds are immediately available to us. And then as the other funds are collected each year, they'll do another award.
So do we have to meet a certain criteria before we can get the other non-competitive grants? I mean, this has been going on since 2019, and we're just entering the process now. So for us to get 22 or 3 or 4, do we have to meet certain criteria like?
No, if this plan is accepted, then we are automatic for the whole 5 years. And this plan, should we go into it and we decide we want to revise it, we can revise it. But this allows us to have automatic access to all 5 years of that funding.
So what are we being measured against? Do we have to accomplish certain things?
Yes.
By the end of 2014?
We have to show progress towards affordable housing and a certain number of units being produced that are in that affordable housing range, that 120% of the AMI for the county.
So that really will depend on the private-public partnership we can develop.
Exactly. So a big part of hoping this will incentivize development, people or organizations that may have a neighborhood going in. It can also be for people who want to put in a multifamily rental. It can also be for individual homeowners who just want to add a second accessory dwelling unit to their property. There are restrictions. So if you build to resale, that you have a minimum of a 5-year deed restriction that you will resell at the affordable housing range. It's longer for if you turn it into a rental. If you do build an ADU, it has to be for longer than a 30-day rental period because they're not wanting to subsidize short-term rentals. Mm-hmm.
So if someone wants to build an ADU, we will loan them or give them money for a permit, or I'm not clear. The difference.
It's a loan, we can make it a forgivable loan. We can't make it for more than 3%, so it could even be a 0.5%. And the idea that we have is that we want to incentivize development of affordable housing. So we want to look at all the ways we can do this to get the maximum number of affordable housing units made, whether they are for sale or for rent at the end.
So we'll be able to start implementing this after our 5-year plan is approved?
Approved. After the 30-day comment period, if you all sign on the resolution, we'll submit. We have till December 31st to submit. The awards are announced in February. It'll take us a little bit to ramp up. And so I would imagine we're looking at probably late spring or early summer for this to be going.
So that, when you said the awards in February, but this is for the non-competitive
For the
ones, correct?
non-competitive. There is
Okay.
a second part which we're not asking for because we want to see if this goes first. It's for up to $5 million, but it is competitive, and we really want to get our feet wet and see if this actually does incentivize development.
Thank you. It's quite exciting.
If I may, I apologize for the interruption, and I apologize for potential, Supervisor Stopper, I just looked, and I did see that this was published in the newspaper as a public hearing.
I will go back, and before anybody talks today, we are opening the public hearing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if there's any public comment, we'll just open the public hearing, and then we can close it afterwards.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin, for bringing that to my attention. All right, Mr. Garamendi, my apologies.
Nope.
Thank you for the questions, Ms. Callaway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lee, thank you so much for presenting here today. I have some concerns. First off, are we proposing that the county, serve as the bank to make these loans?
I don't know if I would put it in those terms. I'm proposing, or we're proposing, that the county draw down funds that are collected from our citizens when they buy and sell homes to be utilized. There's only 8 eligible activities to be utilized to address the workforce housing. We may only have one loan go through. It may be to a development site, or we may have several. But I wouldn't see this as banking activity as much as making resources that are only available from the state to the county to the developers.
So we're going to loan the money to the developers?
It would be a loan.
And so what would be our there's been historically, we've made loans like this before. So if this loan goes bad, we will be responsible for the collection of this, correct?
We will take the collection. You can make the loans, you can determine to make the loans forgivable.
Right. But let's just assume that we're going to get paid back, since this plan does call for a revolving fund.
Reuse, yes.
Right?
Yep.
We've only got, $500,000 here, which is not going to be a whole lot of money for any development or even for a single-family house these days for a loan.
Right.
So we're talking about less than 5, I would imagine, in the best-case scenario.
Yes, I'm not, we did talk to developers to feel out if there would be interest. And so while this wouldn't fund necessarily a whole project, if a project needed some infrastructure, this could be significant savings to the developer to get the infrastructure going to move a neighborhood forward. So it has the potential to be great impact, even though it's not a lot right now. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Not really. I don't think
Okay.
this is enough to make that
Okay,
impact.
So if you needed to put in, for example, a pump station or water sewer capacity to be able to develop a neighborhood, this money could be utilized towards that end, and then it opens up the capacity of that whole development to move forward, and it's at savings to the developer who's trying to get the project moving forward that may need to put millions of dollars in. But remember, at the end of this, it's $1 million, and it can repay back if they put the money forward.
Yeah. My concern is serving as a bank and being responsible for, if a developments go bad, money is relatively cheap in the marketplace right now. So if you've got a good project, you could probably get access to capital through loans. And so we would be sort of adding on to that, which puts us probably in a second position, I would guess. We have the ability, we could put ourselves in the first position, and there's a lot of things we could do. I just have grave concerns about us loaning money out. If we're giving it away, that's one thing. But if we're loaning it out, I don't want to go down to Rancho and find a small development and have to how are we going to collect in that second position? Are there other ways that we could use this money to really change the equation? When I talk to developers, they usually complain about hookup fees. Certainly our public water and sewer agencies have a bottom line they need to make, and it's throwing the delta off when we look at all this stuff. So are there other things that we can do other than just thinking we're going to give loans to developers that may be creative and maybe allow us to stretch that $500,000 further to get more impact? Because I'm not seeing a whole lot of houses or affordable units coming out of this. I'm seeing maybe something. But are there other things that might allow us to leverage things up?
Well, there are other eligible activities. Some of them are aimed at addressing street homelessness, so that would not address the need for affordable housing. Some of them are to put into trusts, which we don't have a housing trust here. So that when you get down to what we're able to do, we can't provide the funding directly to a utilities district, but a developer working with utilities district can help to get that capacity built up there. So I think this, when we looked at the options, this had the greatest ability to maybe open the door. We were really targeting for the extra work that it's going to be taking on, how we can address the shortage of workforce housing from the options that are available, if that makes sense.
Who will verify on a loan program? Who's going to do the due diligence and make the decision on who gets the money?
So we're going to put together a committee. We're in the process through our housing programs of developing a housing resource partnership. And one of the working committees on that will be developers, utility districts, and county staff will be looking at what will be the loan parameters and how it will move forward. And that gets developed after the award.
So we put forward this award, we get the money, then we're going to figure out how we're going to do it.
Right.
And who would you propose made the final call on the loans? Without the committee, it's a guess.
I will probably be the person administering that, but through a group voice of determining what it will be, is my best guess at this point.
And if
Under planning.
Right. So I was going to add on that's kind of this new partnership that the planning department, economic development have, is I can help convene the developers, the utility companies. We can go ahead and make the call for projects and get the list of projects while we're developing the parameters for what criteria we would have for that. Because we're going to want to get the most bang for the buck.
Sure. I mean, and I think that's where we need to focus on, where we're going to get the most housing. I would just be very frank, I have grave concerns about us being a loan or serving as a bank. I know we don't want to use that term, but it is. I have grave concerns about collections if things go bad. I have grave concerns about how we would allocate that funding. I know we have to get something on the books and we can adjust it. It might be something a little bit more appetizing to me. I just want to figure out how we get the most leverage to get the most housing in the best area. You could either be on the back end of a development, helping at the beginning, as you say, in the pre-development funds, or we could be on the back end of it, helping subsidize people to make their rental payments for say, an apartment complex. But those programs exist in the federal and state government. They're certainly available for us to augment them. So where's the greatest risk to the county, and where are we going to get the biggest bang for the buck is where I'd want to go with this, if you were seeking comments.
I appreciate that. I think that is a necessary part of the criteria, is how many housing units can be developed, and looking at the capacity to be able to do this. So if I'm hearing you right, you favor forgivable loans?
No, I don't favor loans at all. I favor investments in our community.
If we're prohibited with this funding to do a gift of public funds, but we're allowed to do forgivable loans, would that work?
Well, we're talking about different ways to think. I think we could work through those things, but what I'd like to see is where's the critical path that things narrow. Is it really that the developers can't get enough money to do the pre-development? I'd have a hard time believing that, if it's a good development plan. Where is it? Is it paying people being able to pay rent? Is it people being able to afford, developers being able to afford utilities? I just want to find out where that critical path is. And what I don't want is 10 years from now, the next Board of Supervisors to having to be foreclosing on a loan for a developer that is long gone, and we won't get that back. If we're going to give it away, we're going to give it away, but let's not fool ourselves that we are a bank. So those would be my concerns. So whatever we come up with, I want to be open to that, but I just want to be very strategic. This is pretty, cookie cutter we could come up with. We're going to loan the money out to developers and move forward, but I think I would like to try to be as creative as possible to achieve our goals. That's my only point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Garamendi. Ms. Fullendorf.
I have similar concerns with Jack with the loans, especially if those loans are going to developers where they can maximize some of their capital a little bit differently because they have access to the private industry. I would like to see something more robust on that. I'm more comfortable looking at it as an individual that's looking to get a loan and buy a house versus a developer, because with that we have more availability to do the forgiveness, get the house and resell it, whereas the developers, we've got an empty lot. I just have some reservations on that. I think I would be more comfortable if it was ready to put a shovel in the ground versus something that is in theory or pie in the sky, if that makes sense. I think I would like to see more concrete in front rather than just supporting a plan to get through to get a developer going. If that makes sense. I just don't want to be giving money out with no way to recuperate that, because there's a difference between a private individual going after a loan and supporting them, getting them off the street, versus supporting a development. Don't get me wrong, I think we have some work to do to support developers, and maybe what it looked at is more of the impact fees versus a loan of offsetting, because essentially what we're doing is it's ourselves we're somewhat paying. I would like to see more of that information coming forward. I think it's a great plan overall, but I think there's still some of those that need to be wrapped up and tied up before we go out through a massive development support partnership.
Thank you, Ms. Fullendorf. Mr. Toffenelli.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And some of my questions and comments were in line with both Amanda and Jack on their comments. The real problem, I think, is the pre-development part of it, and lending money, if you say to developers, is eventually they're going to pay that loan back. They're just going to pass those costs on, and if it's going to cost more then for the low income housing, it's going to cost more because they have to pay that loan back. They're not going to walk away and just pay it out of their own pocket. They're going to pay through that development. So that's a real issue that I think could be hampering this. Again, my comments along the line with both of them are, I don't want to become a bank either. I think Jack hit the nail right on the head with his comments about 10 years from now when we're not here and the county's having to go back and try and sue to get income back, or say, okay, we forgive it. That's not the intention of the program. The program is to keep the money coming in and going out, coming in and going out. So I think we really have to look at it. It only counts for 5%. For administration costs, only 5% of that. I'm not sure that's going to be enough to maintain this program without other general fund dollars going into keeping the system going. So I think those are things that we need to look at.
Thank you, Mr. Toffenelli.
I have one more question. Is that okay? In terms of outreach with this and getting feedback, are you guys working with Sierra Hope and those organizations in the county to understand, because they have housing transitional, especially for DV, domestic violence, and then transitioning those individuals into a permanent housing. Are you guys doing those type of partnerships as well? Because that's where I could see and support those type of loans, is where those individuals need it more than.
Yes, so we participate on the governing board for the Continuum of Care, and there all the time. The governor's budget has really flooded the housing market this year and into 2024 with funding for people who are more at risk than workforce. And there's a lot of collaborative projects and programs coming forward. So, but what there's been very little of is ways to get workforce house going. So this was one, and I'm reading everything. This was one that was coming through there. We have until December 31st to submit, and we're required to have a 30-day public comment period. So if this isn't the board's pleasure, I'm not sure that we have time to go back in this round, so we'd have to ask if we can apply again next year and try again and come back and maybe do comments that would be looking at the whole menu of opportunities of where we could ask to apply this funding.
It was about, I don't know, the year before I was elected to this board that different type of loan thing came before us. Was it for the elderly?
For PACE.
For PACE, that's right. That's right. And there was multiple issues with the county carrying a note and, stalling some people to be able to sell the home and reacquire the money so they could pay off the loan, for example. And multiple issues. There was a decision made by the board then to stand back because of those issues, because of that. And those are some of the loan concerns that I would carry in mind. Also, with this put together, I mean, a lot of the other supervisors addressed developers. All in all, I think Mr. Toffenel has a great point that I agree with, and I was going to bring up is, this isn't really cutting the cost for them. It's a loan. They're going to have to pay that back. It still takes the same amount of money to do the same amount of work. Sometimes more when government money is involved. So, with a package like this, how can the county help with developers being able to apply something for, like, let's say, workforce housing and be able to move forward so that it's affordable to them so that they can still make their bottom line? Things like bringing forward exemptions that the county could do with that go into the overall picture. And there's a multitude of other things with services that maybe the county can say, hey, because you're doing this workforce housing, we cannot charge this because really the money's just doing a vicious circle. And now we're applying a amount that we loan to somebody so that they can pay us for the permit fees. just to start.
That's a very good point, and that's kind of the flexibility of the program. We can offset like engineering costs, permitting costs. So, I mean, we're looking at various options. That's why we're opening the public hearing process. So looking at those options, and maybe that's the feedback we get. We're obviously getting feedback from all of you. We may get feedback from obviously a larger group of folks, we're hoping.
Right.
So, offsetting permitting costs, I know that's also a concern for developers. Engineering costs. Yes, we also hear that it's connecting to utilities, primarily sewer and water, but, again, we don't have to do all loan programs. We can do permit mitigation.
And this isn't just for big developers. This is for mom and pops too, who are trying to get an ADU on their property or just trying to get a house built.
In a lot of those cases, I see how it makes sense to have the money there for, let's say, an expansion on a septic system that would cost $30,000 just to have engineered these days sometimes, before it's all done. I get that. Is there any other board questions, Mr. Garriman?
I was just going to agree with you. I think that was a good idea. Maybe there is some way we could do that to reduce the cost internally. Well, be as Amanda put forward, rem fees or all these fees, and we're in control of that.
Right, those are definitely things we could help that would facilitate.
Right, if you're going to do an apartment building that's for workforce housing and meets these criteria, guess what? We're going to figure out a way to offset. It's a good idea.
Ms. Callaway?
In all the years I've been on this board, we have done nothing for affordable housing. We've had housing elements, we update it every 5 years or whatever, and we've done nothing. And for me, this is an opportunity for us to do something. There's a lot of flexibility in the program. And as Ms. Kimball said, it could be for those people who want to put in ADUs, which we're working on. I've talked to 2 developers who were interested in at least finding out how this could possibly help them develop a property, because, and that's just 2 I happen to be talking to in my district. In terms of, I think, my colleagues brought up a good point about, banking, we've had bad luck in lending money and blah, blah. We had bad luck, and we've learned from it, and what can we do to make it better? And I would expect staff in working with the development community or other county staff with the auditor's office on how can we best manage this. But this is the first time that we as a county have an opportunity and have the funding to do something and not just pontificate that we need housing. We need workforce housing. I mean, Ms. Kimball, I think, had a presentation before the board, or maybe with me, I don't remember, explaining the different types of housing we need. And the majority of the housing was for people who were working. And here we have an opportunity, and I think, we'll probably have some potholes that we run into and some challenges, and my colleagues brought some points up that we know we have to deal with. But I think it's a good, if we don't do this, then in another 10 years, as supervisor, we're going to be sitting here talking the same thing. And I think here's a wonderful opportunity, and we should proceed. And that's all, my editorial comment.
That goes along with our promises in the housing element, that we're going to do what we can. It's 137 housing units that need to be developed over an 8-year period, and we are behind on that. There's other promises in there. And if not this, we need to come back to the drawing board and keep coming back so we get this workforce housing out of the pothole and moving down the road. I love the comments and want to see if we can do some revisions within the timetable that we're in that can meet all the comments we've received today.
Any further board questions or anything? I'll move on to public comment. Is there any? Oh, sorry, Mr. Toffanelli.
I do have one question. If we have someone apply for these loans and they want to purchase a home, and the home price is, just throw out there a number of $250,000, and they're only eligible through their income through a private banking of $150,000. So they're coming to us. Could we loan them the other $100,000 for the home to act with?
So this is for development of new homes, so it wouldn't be to purchase an existing home unless it's for rehabilitation. It's really to get development going.
I saw acquisition on there on 301A. I thought that's okay.
That would be like buying the property to do the development on. Yeah, so you have site control.
Thank you. Public comment.
Hi, I'm Michelle Turner, and I want to say that there's been a lot of discussion back and forth on this. The primary issue that I think you all need to remember is that housing there's a shortage in housing. And so whether this goes smoothly or doesn't go smoothly, it is an attempt a way to attempt to address that problem. If you're concerned about repayment, you can go with the forgivable loans. But the fact is, it's not going to be 10 years before someone says, why didn't the supervisors try to do something rather than do nothing to address housing as an issue? Thank you.
Further public comment?
There is no public comment online.
Okay. I'll bring it back to the board. I'm going to, at this moment, I'll close the public hearing and let the board deliberate. Personally, I think that, this can be, I think there's multiple ways this can be a benefit. I don't think saying it's going to be a forgivable loan really solves the concern that's coming from us, because that just, in my mind, exacerbates it. But there's a lot of interest in being able to do this out here with a few developers I've talked to also, and I think that the opportunities are good for supporting workforce housing. It's it's not so much in the past. People are pushing against new apartment buildings in one area or another, and I think that now people are a little more open-minded to this, just because of the type of homes and the cost it is here. I mean, low-end incomes cannot afford a house to rent here. I look through the newspaper all the time, and it's horrendous. I mean, it's more than my mortgage. Fortunately, I got my house a while ago, but it just doesn't make the bottom line for a lot of working class people that actually do the work for us here in the county that we appreciate so much. So personally, for those reasons, I can support this. I have some concerns. I think through the comment period, I think, looking to the building department, the planning department, how can we work with you so that we can bring these costs down at the same time, so that it's actually beneficial to the developer or the person in the house, so that the cost goes down to the point where it's affordable for those people that we're trying to help out. So that's kind of where I'm sitting on this for right now during the public comment period. Amanda, did you have some? Miss Follendorf? Ms. Callaway?
Ms. Edwards, why would we be approving a resolution before a public comment period is over?
I'll defer to Kathy and Lee if I'm getting this wrong, but my understanding is that the resolution needs to be approved by the board to allow the county to apply for the funding, and then the public comments relate to what projects might be undertaken. Is that correct, Lee?
My understanding is that we get the resolution at the end of the 30 days, so that gives us time to revise it with direction from the board after they receive the comments. So we wouldn't need a vote on the resolution today, we would need it at the end of the 30 days.
So we would not be approving or
This was agendized for the board to consider and adopt the resolution. So if that's not what staff is asking for today, then that needs to be clarified.
I don't think we need the resolution today. We need it at the end of the 30 days. We need to come back.
Okay.
That's my understanding. I apologize for the confusion.
No, that's all right. So the 30 days ends December 31st?
No, December 9th.
December
10th.
Yes, that's why we
30
did,
days
that's
from
why we
today.
did it now, so we had time to come back, and that
Got it.
allows us time to complete the application to get the resolution and submit by December 31st.
It won't give us much time, though, so we're going to have to
So
come back.
it would be on the agenda the middle probably our last meeting in December, right,
Yes.
Ms.
Correct.
Salata?
Yes, that's my understanding.
All right, thank you.
Chair, if I
Mr.
just,
Garman.
when you bring it back, earlier in the presentation, you mentioned we could change it. I think that'd be really important to clarify, because I don't think, I mean, maybe you get all the great comments and brilliant idea comes in tonight, but if we don't have it right yet, we do want to make the application, I'm sure. But if you're locking us into something like this, that's going to be harder. If we can adjust as we go along, that would be really important to convey.
I think that may be a way for us to get it in on time, is that we approve it, and then as we go to develop it after the award, which is part of the 5-year plan, that we make the adjustments to make sure we can meet all the things that, all the comments that we're hearing today that need to be considered.
Just make sure it doesn't lock us in. I
Right.
understand. Thank you.
And I do think if we revise the plan significantly from the eligibility activities, we have to resubmit. That doesn't mean that funding won't come down, but we need to resubmit, so it will stall the work.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that, because we can't just change it to fit our needs. We have parameters that we have to work under to qualify for. Yeah.
That's correct.
Absolutely, with every dime. Ms. Fullendorf?
Supervisor Garamendi mentioned the application, I'd like to see how these applications meet the needs that we need in the general plan. I mean, so you have all these numbers in the general plan that need to meet, and I would feel more comfortable when these proposals are submitted and these plans are submitted, okay, what in the general plan are you meeting to meet the criteria for us to give you this money in whatever that capacity is, and that we're able to check those boxes and be like, okay, yay, in this element, we're able to knock off 10 houses and maybe 3 over here, and whatever that is, a rehab or new build for an apartment, like a duplex or something like that.
That was that first table that's in there that we
And
brought.
that will
That's
be-
from the housing element, which is part of the general plan, to show what our growth needs are. The county isn't obligated to do the development, but to incentivize and to look for ways to make it easy for that development to happen.
Exactly,
to meet the
but when
needs.
you're screening, you don't want a competitor enough that all these, I know we're not going to get it, but developers coming in and say, okay, here's multifamily versus single family, and now you've offset not having enough of one or the other, and how do you make sure that all of the diversity of housing that is needed for workforce housing are being screened or equal looked at in the application. I mean, we need more apartments, but we also might need single house, and how do you can't just favor one or the other. So I just want to make sure that we're not focusing on just one developer that's just going to do one thing. We're giving the opportunity for all of them and spreading that money across through the application and then this is the perfect time for the conversation of those impact fees. Working with building and planning, it's just not this, like, okay, we'll give you this much, but hey, we're going to knock off, what can we knock off on these fees to help you do this as well. So I think I want to be more clear. I think it's more than just handing money out. I'd like to see more of the application. How do we meet these with building and planning as well?
I appreciate that. I've been in conversation with 2 nonprofit developers, and these are organizations that in rural communities will build like apartment complexes. To some degree, that helps with workforce housing, but I don't think to the same degree as if we open it up and look at anybody who is looking at, whether it's an individual or a nonprofit or a for-profit business, that's saying, here's what we could do if you choose us. Then we can look at where we could incentivize development, where we get the greatest impact to start kind of opening up this vacuum to meet the growing need. So
I'd also like to say, there's a couple comments earlier about Calaveras doing nothing, and I think that, small things like what we've done with ADUs and making that more accessible to people is a step forward. And when you're doing those total counts, now not everyone comes in and says, I'm doing an ADU because I have a member of my family that wants a cheap rental in my yard. Are you getting those in the count?
Yes.
You are?
Yes, and so I think we're planning a presentation when we're getting ready to do our next housing element that we've talked about doing, so I'll be able to bring you up on there's so many moving parts right now and the numbers, and kind of giving you a more clear idea of where we're at, where we're moving forward, and where we may be a little stuck.
Yeah, absolutely. I would actually appreciate that type of information.
Yeah, we're hoping after the first of the year, because that's when we collect our data for the housing element annual report.
Thank you, Lee. Any further board questions? If not, then with this, I'm thoroughly confused on how this was agendized now. Miss Edwards?
It's my fault.
Miss
I'm admittedly
what is our
confused
next
too.
step so that I can do something that where we can move forward in a legitimate?
Well, I think I need, and it's still not clear to me what it is staff is asking for today, what they believe they need today. That would dictate.
May I ask, are you looking for the okay to move forward with this so that we can take the public comment period so that you can then later bring it back to the board for how it's agendized today so that we can approve it after the comment period is?
Exactly.
But we're just getting clear to open up the public comment period.
We're required to have a 30-day public comment period. Today was to open that and to let you know that after whatever happens through the public comment period that we will be coming back for a resolution.
Ms. Edwards, can I move forward in that fashion? I'll go ahead and make the motion if that's...
Yes, this was agendized as opening the 30-day public comment period and adopting a resolution. So it sounds though instead that you are going to just solicit a motion to only open the public comment period.
Right, and then to bring back the resolution for approval at a later date with the
after the
proper
conclusion of that.
revisions.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Does that sound okay, Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
So moved. Thank you, Mr. Garamendi. Before you get reprimanded, please turn on your mic when you speak.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Garamendi. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. At this time, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody. Because we're agendized for 11 o'clock to open the redistricting hearing, I'm going to go ahead and go into closed session and finish our third item that we have not discussed yet. Okay. We'll be back at 11. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Welcome back to the Tuesday, November 9th, 2021 regular meeting of the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors. We are on to a redistricting public hearing. The hearing will commence at 11 a.m. as we're starting right now. Informational item, county clerk, recorder, and register of voters. Actually, I was going to let you report out first. I see, I messed it up. My apologies.
Okay. The report out for closed session. Item number 1, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, conference with real property negotiator regarding price and terms of payment for the following properties affected by the State Route 4 Wagon Trail Realignment Project Phase 1. County negotiators are Robert Packinger and Matt Satao. Properties, Scornia Properties, LP, APN numbers 053-001-018, 053-001-019, 053-007-011, 053-007-031, 053-007-032, 053-008-060. There was no reportable action taken. Item number 2, pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, conference with county designated labor negotiators Judy Hawkins, Nick Marvin, Shay Johnson regarding the following employee organization, Calaveras County Public Safety's Employee Association, CCPSEA. There was no reportable action taken. Item number 3, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D2, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, 1 case. No reportable action was taken.
Thank you, Ms. Glanville. Now we'll move on to item 21, informational item. County Clerk, Recorder, and Register of Voters conduct a public hearing and receive a presentation regarding the 2021 redistricting process and provide staff direction regarding map alternatives. At this time, I will open the public hearing. Ms. Rebecca Turner.
Good morning, Board. So I'm going to go back through a lot of the slides that I went through last week will seem repetitive, but I want to make sure any new public listening in today gets the same information as the first go around. So bear with me. To date, on the redistricting website, we do have an overview of the process, a timeline. Community Mapper is there so that you could submit your community of interest maps along with any public comment. We also have the draft map viewer, which allows you to view the different draft alternatives that have been published to date. On the draft map viewer, we've also added any Community Mapper layers. A public has mentioned that that would make it easier, so those now are on there. And then there's the public hearing videos to date. Upcoming dates, today we're having our second public post-draft map public hearing. December 7th is the first day that we would potentially adopt a resolution approving a map, and December 14th is the last scheduled board meeting before the deadline to do so. Just wanted to talk about the timeline as far as that goes, because once you adopt, there's 28 days for the elections office to adjust the precinct lines before the new supervisorial lines go into place for an election. So waiting to adopt until the 14th would postpone the county supervisor signature in lieu filing period until January 11th. All other county offices and state offices will open on January 3rd. An overview of the process. There are 5 supervisorial districts, each represented by a member of the Board of Supervisors. Every 10 years, districts must be redrawn so the districts are substantially equal in population. This process is called redistricting. This ensures that each member of the board has roughly the same number of constituents and equal representation. In Calaveras, the Board of Supervisors is responsible for drawing these districts, and districts determine which neighborhoods and communities are grouped together for the purpose of electing a board member. What's wrong with our existing districts? Why now? Counties are required to redistrict every 10 years. We are required to follow the federal decennial census. The census was conducted in 2020, and the results of that were provided to us in census blocks, and those are the lines that we have to follow to create the new districts. The last time we undertook this process was in 2011, and since then there have been major legislative changes, and so the criteria is not quite the same this time. Federal requirements, population is the #1 requirement. That's the reason that we are doing the redistricting process. The districts must be equal in population in order to comply with the United States Constitution. 1 person, 1 vote. So the total population of the county is 45,306. You divide that by 5, and the population that we're trying to get to for each district is 9,061. Anything above or below the 9,061 is considered a deviation. So populations change over time, which is why redistricting is required every 10 years. We must comply with the U.S. Constitution, the California Constitution, and the Federal Voting Rights Act. So we cannot make changes that have a discriminatory purpose or effect, such as preventing minorities the chance to elect a candidate of their choice. We also cannot gerrymander, which applies both to racial and partisan gerrymandering. New requirements, though, this go-around were put into effect with AB 1276. I put in quotes, to the extent practical. These are ranked priorities to the extent practical that the supervisors must follow. Number one is geographically contiguous, meaning a district cannot be two separate islands. It has to be one continuous geographic area. Geographic integrity of neighborhoods and communities of interest. So the communities of interest that have been submitted to us to date, we've taken those into consideration, and where possible, we've tried not to split those communities of interest. Geographic integrity of cities or designated census places shall also be respected. Please note that these are in order, so geographic contiguous being number one, communities of interest number two, and then city and census designated places number three. Districts must also be easily identifiable and understandable by residents, so they should be bounded by natural and artificial boundaries such as streets and bridges, and anywhere that you can't cross should not be considered. So we can't combine a district and have a lake split it unless the lake has a regular ferry service. Where it does not conflict with preceding criteria, the districts must be geographically compact. So that is number 5 on the list. Geographically contiguous, we discussed, cannot be two islands put together as a single district. They can't be separated by something that would prevent somebody from crossing from one side of the district to the other. The integrity of neighborhoods and communities of interest. While we mostly understand what a neighborhood is, what is a community of interest? So a community of interest is defined in the Constitution as a contiguous population which shares common social and economic interests that should be included within a single district for the purpose of its effective and fair representation. Communities of interest should not include relationships to political parties, candidates, or incumbents. Geographic integrity of a city is the same concept as a community of interest, except for its cities and census designated places would be towns that aren't currently incorporated, but the majority of our towns in Calaveras would be considered a CDP, a census designated place. Districts should be easily identifiable and understandable. According to the legislature, this means to the extent practical, districts should be bounded by a natural or artificial boundary, waterway, mountain range, other topographical features, streets, or boundaries of the county. So most of our census blocks are already, that's why they're created in that way. They are bounded by a street, a mountain range, a school district, something that is understandable feature. Geographically compactness, so to the extent practical, we're trying to get tight boundaries. We shouldn't have long legs crossing the county or pulling in. So ideally, we want to try to keep the districts as compact as possible, meaning you shouldn't be going and searching for population if there's closer population to grab. So at a glance, ideal. If we could have nice, tight little circles, that would be ideal. Not contiguous, so no islands. Not compact, a lot of squigglies. And then, of course, we cannot do not equal. So to the extent practical, we'd like to follow all of these. But obviously, that's not easy considering the census blocks we have to work with. What else is new? Census data was adjusted to reassign inmates to their last known place of residence. The California Redistricting Commission is now required to reassign all inmates to the address in which they were most recently resided prior to incarceration. Counties are required to use this adjusted data when drawing their new supervisorial district lines. The purpose is to provide more equal representation. This had a minor impact to the county overall. The adjusted data changed our population from 45,292 to 45,306. So we increased by 14. What's not allowed? The board shall not adopt district boundaries for the purpose of favoring or discriminating against a political party. Often referred to as gerrymandering, the practice of drawing district boundaries in a way that gives one political party, candidate, or group an unfair political advantage over others is not permitted. But remember, just because district looks odd does not mean it's gerrymandering. It looks odd because we're following the census blocks. Why do these districts look so weird? There are many reasons why a district may look like it does. The first and foremost, we have roughly equal population in each district. We must have equal population in each district. We don't control where people live, so we have to work within the framework of where they actually reside in the county. After population equality and geographic continuity, the most important criteria is for communities to remain intact. Census blocks. The population numbers we use are from the federal census blocks. The census arranges people into population blocks. These blocks are our unit of measurement for accurate population counts and for drawing district boundaries. The blocks are not always logical to us, nor do they utilize straight lines. The process of redistricting is grouping those census blocks into districts using the foregoing criteria. So here is a picture of our census blocks. When I think of census blocks, I think of any block. I think of nice little squares that fit together. Our census blocks are not that. They're following artificial and man-made boundaries, such as rivers, streets, lakes, mountain ranges. Hence, they do not form nice boundaries. Burson and Campo Seco are connected by a population block. So I'm using this as an example to see this population block in particular has islands in the middle of it. So by selecting this block, you then have to select all the blocks in the middle of it in order not to create islands for a district. It also is interesting because it covers from Burson to Valley Springs and all the way up to Campo Seco. So wherever this block goes, it kind of ties those surrounding areas to it, which makes it difficult to make splits in between designated census places. The largest concentration of population in our county would be the subdivision Rancho Calaveras. All blocks that encompass Rancho Calaveras equals a population of 7,697. And by doing so, we then split other communities of interest on the outlying skirts of this area. I focus on Rancho because it's the largest center of population in our county. It really does impact the way the lines are drawn in the remainder of the county. So that's something we all need to take into consideration, even though it only seems like it would impact one or two districts. It really impacts the entirety because how we draw District 5 or how we draw the districts surrounding that, the other districts are impacted. If we were to combine the population of Rancho, La Contenta, it splits Gold Creek, and then we have a total population of 9,125. The population of Rancho, La Contenta, and Gold Creek, now we're at 9,477, which we're already too high over our 9,061 to form a district. Communities of interest. I did not discuss communities of interest at great length in the last presentation, so I would like to go through them. Here is an overview of each of the communities of interest, but bear with me, I'm going to go into the viewer and zoom in so we can see all of the maps submitted to date. Maybe I am.
A lot of those lines cross over each other.
Can I ask a clarifying question, Ms. Turner? When you say these are all the communities of interest
submitted on the map or sold?
Submitted by.
Can you possibly take out the original district lines and then zoom in on a couple different spots where those community of interest?
Definitely. I would like to zoom in on all of them.
Yeah, thank you.
And you don't want the supervisor lines on there?
No, none. I mean, we're talking community of interest right now.
I think actually if I take the supervisorial lines off, I might lose the boundaries of the county. Let's see. No?
Nope.
They're still there. Okay.
It worked for me, so.
Good. Okay. So the first community of interest I'm going to go over is Copperopolis. It bounds, the way it was submitted to us, it bounds like primarily of copper, but it splits the Diamond 20. Diamond 20 has also submitted comments that would lead me to, that would be that they have a community of interest as well and would like not to be split. So working with both of those, I've been trying to draw maps where we don't split the main area of copper, but we have split out Diamond 20 in the most recent because they've also said they're a community of interest, and just simply following the highway splits Diamond 20 because they go on both sides of the road. Then we have Vallecito. 2 maps have been submitted for Vallecito. One that we're calling East Vallecito, and then Vallecito here itself. It does cover both sides of the highway, even though the majority of the town is on the southern side of the highway. We've had maps that have split this at the highway, and we've also submitted maps that keep it wholly contained in either District 3 or District 4. The majority of comments from Vallecito have been that they just would like to be kept as one whole, wholly within one district. And then East Vallecito was just a submittal where in our current district boundaries, that area is in District 4, and this submittal is suggesting that it should be placed in District 3. So Sheep Ranch was submitted as well, saying they did not want to be split between more than one district. There has been one map submittal, I think it was version 4, which did split it. All other maps kept Sheep Ranch contained within one district. Greater Mountain Ranch also submitted a map. The same map version, I think it was draft 4, also split Greater Mountain Ranch. All other draft version kept it completely within District 2. San Andres, which is Mountain Ranch and San Andres both would be considered CDPs as well. So San Andres is also a census designated place as well as a community of interest in this map version. You can see that the way they drew it draws up Mountain Ranch Road and suggesting that the entirety of San Andres to Pool Station and over is all part of San Andres and part of that community of interest. There have been a couple map versions that follow this community of interest. Currently, draft 1 does not. It would split San Andres, what they've submitted as a community interest, and really what would be considered the CDP as well. And then we have Rancho Calaveras, the one I keep talking about because it is our biggest grouping of population in the county. It's hard to zoom in and see the whole thing, but the outer boundary follows along the lines of where Jenny Lynn Town would be at the southern boundary. And then
Can you zoom in up by Hillville Estates where it crosses along?
Definitely. I'll zoom in on the northern part because that's where the COIs start to overlap. So we have Valley Hills Estates. I'm going to use the pointer to kind of draw where the boundary is because it's hard to see with the overlay. Actually, let me turn it off. I'm going to turn off West Hills. So you can see the boundary of Valley Hills Estates follows primarily along the highway up and then pulls into part of the subdivision of Rancho Calaveras and then picks up there. Rancho Calaveras, this is the part that it's getting a lot of comment because the maps have not included what is being called West Rancho Calaveras to date, and so we've gotten a lot of comments that the community of interest would like to see West Rancho Calaveras pulled in and added as part of District 5. I'm going to turn on West Hills now. I'm going to turn off Valley Hills Estates. West Hills Rancho Calaveras covers majority of what was Valley Hills Estates and then butts right up to Rancho Calaveras. So that was all of our community of interest. Do you want to see any in more depth?
Supervisors, would you like to see anything clearly on the communities of interest, or would you like her to move on? Let's move on.
All right. So public comments to date, I also summarized those so that we could discuss them further. I grouped them just for ease of conversation into what the current supervisorial districts were primarily. So Burson, the only thing they suggested is they did not want to be part of District 2. Jenny Lind wanted to stay with Rancho Calaveras. Rancho Calaveras, we've received 13 comments that they just want to be kept wholly within one district. And I've received one comment that it would like to be grouped with Valley Springs. San Andres has submitted comments to include with McCalmy Hill Mountain Ranch as they share common schools, utilities, and other services. There was one comment, and then one that it should be in D2. Valley Springs, we received 3 comments to keep Quail Oaks whole. The problem with the way the census blocks run is if we keep Rancho Calaveras whole, we do end up splitting Quail Oaks because there is one common census blocks that takes in part of Valley Hills Estates, Quail Oaks, and Rancho Calaveras on the northern side of the highway. And then there have been 2 comments that Valley Hills Estates should be kept whole. In the Mountain Ranch area, this comment, it was from Mountain Ranch, and it said that they did not want to be kept in the same district as Moke Hill, Glencoe, West Point, or Wilseyville. I could not find a way to separate it from those, so I have not been able to accommodate that public comment. McCalmy Hill, draft maps, version 1 and 3. So there's been one public comment that McCalmy Hill would like draft maps 1 or 3 to be approved. Paloma, keep Paloma and Moke Hill together. Paloma services and schools are located in Moke Hill. Draft maps 1 and 3 mostly align. Communities have social, historical, and cultural connection with West Point, Mountain Ranch, Sheep Ranch, and Railroad Flat. Draft map 1 places communities with a very similar shared interest in the district. So overall, 5 comments for Paloma to keep it in District 2. Railroad Flat submitted a comment that they would like to maintain in District 2. Sheep Ranch opposes draft map 4 and most closely aligns with Mountain Ranch because they share the same school districts, mail, and fire protection services. Public comments for Murphy's were related to Murphy's Pines and was recommending that Murphy's Pines associate strongly with Murphy's. There were 7 comments to that effect, and that Murphy's Pines should stay in the same district as Murphy's. A district should be drawn that encompasses all of Murphy's Fire Protection District, which would include Murphy's, Douglas Flat, and Vallecito. Vallecito, 7 comments to not split Vallecito between 2 districts, but put it in fully in District 3. Do not split Vallecito between 2 districts. There is a single comment on that. And then Vallecito socially and economically is tied to Angels Camp, and to keep it with Angels Camp. All of those 9 comments related to Vallecito were saying they would like to be whole, and just the one reference D4 as opposed to D3. Angels Camp, Murphy's Grade Road. This comment is stating that Angels French Gulch Lower Murphy's Grade should stay in District 4, including Darby down to Angels Camp. Challenges are more aligned with District 4. 2 people submitted comments to that effect. The City of Angels submitted comment that Ross Reservoir, a specific APN, should be kept in the same district as the city. That APN does happen to have 0 population, and it should be easy to accommodate the request if the board chooses to do so. And then the other APN they referenced had 0 population as well, and it would be easy enough because it's on the boundary to keep it within District 4 or wherever Angels lies. And they are suggesting that the city SOI, the sphere of influence, be taken into consideration and be kept with the same districts as the city. And there was 3 comments to that effect, and 1 that we should plan for city growth when drawing the map. Copperopolis, keep Copperopolis with Angels Camp viewed as a COI to share, due to shared school district and shopping. We had 9 comments to that effect. Use draft 4 map, it keeps Copperopolis whole, and with the city, there was 4 comments to that effect. Keep Diamond 20 whole, do not split from Copperopolis, there was 1. Include Salt Springs with Copperopolis, there was 1. Keep Copperopolis whole, 5 comments. Keep Bar 20 with Copperopolis unless drastically redistricted, there was 1 comment. So that was all the summary of the public comment received to date. That was everything received before last Wednesday. Anything that is received will go in a later update after last Wednesday. So the current map, District 2 is 18.3% deviation from the target 9,061 that we should be at. District 4 is the second largest deviation at 10.5%. So we have discussed draft 1 at previous meetings. Its issues are there's a population deviation of 4.8%. It does split communities of interest submitted, such as Copperopolis, San Andres, Vallecito, Rancho Calaveras, Valley Hills Estates. It also splits San Andres and Vallecito, who are both census-designated places, and that is the draft that pushed Murphy's Pines from District 3 to District 2. Draft 1C was the result of the meeting on the last board meeting where we discussed the maps. It had a total population deviation of 9.1%. The public comment identified Copperopolis, San Andres, Vallecito, Rancho Calaveras, and Valley Hills Estates as communities of interest, and each are divided in this draft. It also split San Andres and Vallecito, both being cities, census-designated places. 1D was a version that I drafted with the intent to try to take the board's changes on 1C and reduce the population deviation. It has a population deviation of 5.9%, but splits Copperopolis, San Andres, Vallecito, and Rancho Calaveras. It also splits San Andres and Vallecito. Draft 1E was a version from 1C again. This was trying to take public comment into consideration, and we adjusted the lines to pull in more of Rancho Calaveras into District 5 in that version, and split off Diamond 20 from Copperopolis, so that Diamond 20 could be kept whole, but the majority of Copperopolis stays with District 4. The other reason for that is we also had circled 20 in that district, and we were able to keep those at least together, and Salt Springs together, all in District 5. The communities of interest that were split were Copperopolis, San Andres, Vallecito, and Rancho Calaveras. And then census-designated places, San Andres and Vallecito, were also split. Draft 2 had a population deviation of 5.8, splitting Copper, Vallecito, Rancho Calaveras, and census-designated place Vallecito, mentioned twice. Murphy's Pines shifted from 3 to 2. 2A has the least amount of the draft maps presented so far. It split Copperopolis and Rancho Calaveras. And then we have 2B. The population on these versions is getting lower, but Rancho Calaveras is still split, and Murphy's Pines and the northern part of Arnold, or District 3, was moved to District 2. 2C was a variation of 2, while also trying to take in consideration some of the public comment and some of the takeaways from the board meeting last week where we could keep the population down, but also try to split fewer of the communities of interest. So in this one, we took Rancho Calaveras, everything south of the highway, and kept it in District 5, south of Rancho Calaveras, and then everything north stayed in District 1. We also split Diamond 20 off from Copperopolis, lowering the overall population of the District 4, which was needed, and balancing out the population. Vallecito in this version and Rancho Calaveras are still split. And then we get to draft 3, which instead of District 2 picking up San Andres, it goes and pulls part of Valley Springs. It does have an awkward split in downtown Valley Springs because District 2 comes up right up on the city boundary. It also shifted Copperopolis with being part of District 5, and Angels Camp and San Andres are now connected as a district. That's your favorite one.
No, it's just, if you're going to do it, you might as well go right now. No, I'm not serious about that.
In order to pick up Copperopolis, that is the amount of population that had to be removed from District 5 to do so.
More representation.
Communities of interest, Rancho Calaveras and San Andres were split. I state San Andres was split because of the map we looked at previously. It went higher up into District 2, stating that those residents would be part of a community of interest tied to San Andres. Cities and designated census places, Campo Seco was split. That was due to that population block that we looked at where it ranges from Burson to Campo Seco and then over to Valley Springs. Easily identifiable and understandable, the downtown section of Valley Springs is shifted to District 2, which census blocks follow minor roads, creating difficult to understand district split near Valley Springs Town Center, where technically we still fall within the easily identifiable because the district boundaries do follow man-made or barriers, which are the streets. Draft 4. Has a population deviation of 1.5%, but communities of interest, Mountain Ranch, San Andres, Sheep Ranch, and Valley Hills Estates are split. Easily identifiable and understandable, I don't know. Arnold shifted from District 3 to District 2. Draft 5. This created Rancho Calaveras as primarily an island in the middle of District 1. District 1 then reaches from north of McCall-Mill all the way to Copperopolis. Angels Camp is now picking up, or the District 4 is now picking up Angels Camp, Appaloosa Community Service District, and a small piece of Copper, and reaching over to Hogan Lake. So population deviation of 2.3%, communities of interest, Copperopolis and Rancho Calaveras were split in that draft. And then we had the public draft 1 submittal that we discussed last week. It was a variation of our draft 2, where they followed the highways primarily, evening out the population. They then submitted this one had a population deviation of 3.4%. It did split Copperopolis, Rancho Calaveras, and Vallecito as the communities of interest were submitted, and then it split the census designated place, Vallecito. The group, the public, submitted an additional draft, which was a further equaling out the population of the original draft that they submitted. It did have an overall population deviation of 0.3%. It did split Copperopolis, Rancho Calaveras, and Vallecito. Vallecito as a census designated place as well. So that is the end of my presentation. So I'm looking for direction at this point and/or further public comment.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. I'm bringing it back to the board. We did, call it this, but we did some work last meeting on a draft map. You know, just looking at it here, it seems, you know, we worked a little bit backwards on the numbers for our deviation. So is it the appetite of the board to continue on with the work that we did, or are we looking at a map deviation that we would like to work off of that we can address more communities of interest? Mr. Garamendi, your light's on.
Mr. Chair, if my vote would be to pick up our work where we left off last meeting. So that would be it's 1C and just see where we go from there rather than open it up and start all over.
Thank you, Mr. Garamendi. Ms. Callaway?
Ms. Turner, we keep talking about Vallecito and splitting it. Is that being split east and west, so there's a north and a south? Or is it cutting through the town of Vallecito? It's hard for me to tell looking at the maps.
Each map variation is slightly different where it's split. Where we left off on 1C through 1E, it's split Vallecito at the highway.
At the highway, okay. Also on Murphy's Pines, I thought we agreed to leave that in D3 as their entrance that they use is from French Gulch Road.
All variations published after the meeting, 1C through 1E and 2C, all have Murphy's Pines as part of District 3.
Thank you.
So, continue on with the work that we were doing, or is there another map that you would? Ms. Fullendorf. Your light's not on yet. If you're not ready, then don't turn it on. You don't have.
I don't know, to be honest.
That's a good answer. I think that's where we're kind of all at. But
I would, any one of them I pick is just going to split. I don't know. I really don't.
right. Understood.
I continue on with what we have. I think we can make some adjustments on it. I don't think it was final on a lot of the stuff. I've had some comments about it.
So continue on with 1C. Or am I correct on that one?
That's their last where we left off.
1C is where the board left
Right.
off.
1C?
Yeah.
All right. Ms. Callaway.
What would happen to D4 if we took all of Vallecito, if we're on 1C, and put that into D4? It would Oh, never mind.
Significant.
I just significantly increased. What, I mean, just from the area that I know, when we make the changes for D4, that's a significant impact down in the copper area.
So I think the population for putting Vallecito back wholly in a certain district, District 3 could afford the population to put all of Vallecito back into
D3, and then would that maybe possibly extend some of copper into D4? I mean, I feel like we're going back in time when copper went from,
So at this point in the draft, we have 1C has all of, can't even say all of copper because the big block that picks up is part of Diamond 20. So the one that picked up at the most southern edge of the county has a portion of Diamond 20 pulled from it. It only has population of like 30 some odd. But it is clearly the only roads in there in that census block are part of the Diamond 20 subdivision, so it
Ms.
does
Turner?
pull those.
I'm sorry, you're doing fine, I'm sorry to interrupt, but as you're doing that, looking on stuff, can we please put it up on the screens?
Yeah.
Sure.
Not that we don't have everything.
Unless your personal messenger is showing up, please.
No, oh, perfect. Doug is sharing his screen now. That'll help.
Excellent, thank you.
Doug, could you go to the very southern border of the county where the population block of...
Copperopolis area, Diamond 20.
Yeah. So there's a population block in there of 32, which as of 1C right now is being split and put into District 5. Those 32 of the population in there are actually all part of Diamond 20. The only roads in that area are coming off of that subdivision, which is why we're suggesting that is Diamond 20. So right now, all of copper besides those 32 are included in 1C as part of District 4. District 4's population is just extremely high and, I mean, should be reduced. In this variation, District 4 has 9,513, a deviation of 452.
So, all in all with the comments, I mean, you keep saying copper, but Diamond 20 is essentially its own community separate from Copperopolis. And there was one comment that was saying keep them together, but a majority of the comments are either keep this whole or this whole, is the way it's written, with the comments came in.
Yes, there also is a comment to keep Diamond 20 as part of Copperopolis.
Right, the one comment, yes. I paid attention.
You did.
Was there something further, Ms. Callaway? So you're working forward with map 2?
I'm on,
C?
I was
Or, I
on
mean
1C.
1C, I'm sorry.
Would you like to see what would happen to the population if we pulled all of what would be considered Vallecito into District 3? It would reduce the population in District 4.
Right. Do you know what that total number is approximately?
I don't know the split number. There's roughly 450 in Vallecito as a whole. So what we're pulling in would probably be somewhere between 375 and 400.
Well, that would then put D3 over the top.
It does then pick up for
Under the
D3.
line.
Okay.
I do want to say after we left the meeting last Tuesday, I did look at the boundary between District 2 and District 3, and we have moved the boundary north of where it used to be to follow the school district line. However, the last supervisorial district map had a split at Folan Road, which by Indian Creek. So we could move it down a little bit to Indian Creek to put that boundary back into, to put that area. There's kind of a subdivision right there between District 2 and District 3, it appears. And we could pull it down, and I think it moves like 50 people into District 2 from District 3, so that helps some.
That would be south of Fulham Road.
Everything north of Folan Road, I'm suggesting would go into District 2.
And what about Fulham Road?
Folan Road, south of Folan Road would stay in District 3. North of Folan Road would go into District 2, which follows...
No, I understood that, but there's quite a few, there are a lot of people on Fulham Road. So would that go into D2 or D3?
I was taking the north, and 2 would take the north, 3 would take the south. Got the houses there, and then there's this 5 or 6 houses between Sheep Branch here and Sheep Branch.
Well, when you go Avery Sheep Branch to Murphy Sheep Branch, there's quite a few houses in there. I don't know if that's 1 or 2 census blocks.
It's 2. They split it right down Fall Road, north and south. So the guys across the street from each other in Long Hill are census blocks.
So, Doug, can you put on the current supervisorial districts? What I'm suggesting would have us pretty much follow what the current supervisorial districts are doing right now. So it wouldn't have an impact to that area. They would stay in, if they're in District 2 currently, they'd stay in District 2.
I agree.
District.
I drove out there on Friday.
Yeah.
Do you want to take public comment now, or do we want to keep working and then take a little public comment on what we worked on later? You know what, well, let's take public comment right now. If the public's willing. Ms. Colleen Platt, good to see you. I just want to start, before you start getting your timer, that we have 3 minutes. We have 3 lights working this time, I think. So, please. We front-loaded it this time instead of talking about it afterwards.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Okay, good morning. I have 2 minutes to go before it's noon. Good morning, supervisors and clerk and county clerk and election supervisors. Thank you very much. The copies that I handed out are a proposed map of a new boundary between districts.
Colleen, I'm sorry to interrupt. Please start our timer over. You know, if you have to lean into the mic a little bit more, or if you're more comfortable taking your mask off speaking so we can all hear you clearly, Colleen. I couldn't hear you so well, but if you're comfortable with taking your mask off, you're more than okay doing it.
I'll do so. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay,
Please start our time over.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good morning, sort of, at noon. Good to be here, and it's nice to be able to talk like this. We created a map that you have in your hand of a proposed boundary between District 1 and District 5 that we feel is workable and would basically be suitable to any map that you're working on now. We've tried to balance pulling from one district to another district to include almost all of the community of interest of Rancho Calaveras, Jenny Lind. It's impossible, as Rebecca has demonstrated, to include every piece of Rancho because that includes too many other subdivisions. So this map is a compromise, but it includes as much as possible of the Rancho Calaveras community of interest. If you look at the top of the page, we follow the existing boundary between District 5 and District 1 around the Valley Springs area. And so the green line up there is the existing boundary, and the blue of the proposed new district follows that boundary. And then as you go to the west, what we did was we tried to keep the Valley Hills Estates community of interest completely whole. Currently, it's split. So we would like that area to be whole, and we know that area wants to be whole. So we took our line, and we did cut a little bit of Rancho off there. There are some people that aren't in it, but that's, we feel, a good compromise to make on there. Then the line goes down and continues to Olive Orchard Road. When it hits Olive Orchard Road, then it goes south to Highway 26, and then follows Highway 26 all the way to Burson and follows Highway 6 south. And then what we're suggesting is, and this is up to you to balance your populations, but if you need more population in District 1, you could follow Milton Road south there to the county boundary. One of the maps that was submitted did that, and there's about 145 people south of Highway 26 there if you need to switch populations one way or the other. So that whole area of the western county, that existing boundary shifts south, and that would give you the ability to shift populations where you need it in District 1 or District 5. So we thought that was a reasonable way to keep the Rancho Calaveras Jenny Lind community of interest as whole as possible. We realize it's not possible to keep completely whole. And we did go up in the La Contenta area. We left it just as it is now. It does split La Contenta a bit, but I understood there was not many comments from that area that they didn't like it the way it was, so we thought we'll leave that as, because then you just start messing with a big population up there if you start moving the line up there again. So there was a couple hundred, 305 people that if you go all the way up to Vista del Lago and make the line there, then you're adding 305 people to District 5, which is fine with us, but if you're trying to balance the populations, that might not be something you want to do. And it does include the Quail Oak subdivision, but that's the existing boundary now that includes the Quail Oak subdivision, and it didn't seem to have bothered them all this time. We understand they want to be whole too, but if we remove that, then it removes about 250 lots in Rancho Calaveras. So we felt, Rancho Calaveras is a very important community of interest. It's got a boundary in the general plan land use map. That's a set boundary of the Rancho Calaveras community of interest, and the community services area, the road boundaries, the service district is exactly that boundary too. So we feel that's a very important, oops, sorry, my time up. Sorry.
I didn't notice either. Thank you for your comments.
Okay,
Good work.
So we understand this is very, very difficult, and we appreciate the work that you're putting through. So just keep that under consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment on this map? So I did make a rendition of their version this morning, and the population they adjust either way does equal out, so it makes roughly the same population if we followed that line.
Thank you,
To both districts.
Ms. Turner.
Hi, my name is Brenda McHenry, and early on in my playing with the community mapping device, I found I have made myself my very own map. And I'm kind of here to apologize for that, because it was not my intention to do that, but obviously I hadn't worked on the mapping device as well as I should have. So it was just a comment, and you can certainly ignore it. But there is a section in there on the community mapper that has my name on it. And it shouldn't be there. That's all I have to say today.
Well, thank you. Playing with it is how we learn.
Exactly.
That's how I learned.
It's kind of like sending out an email before you're ready.
Thank you, Brendan.
Marty Crane. I just wanted to say that one thing that Colleen was mentioning about Quail Oaks and La Quintana were split 10 years ago, and it was upsetting to many people, and they've had 10 years to adjust to that. So to split it again is just like ripping the Band-Aid off or whatever. So, keeping it as close to what it is now, it would be nice. Aside from the fact that they're in different districts, separate districts. I just wanted to address one thing. I live off of Silver Rapids Road, Highway 26, Silver Rapids. If you go up the hill, Blair Drive dead ends into Ross Road. Right now, thanks to 10 years ago, the far side of Ross Drive is in District 1. My side of Ross Ride, on the lower side, is in District 5. That doesn't work. It's kind of like what you were talking about, your road, which, the people across the street are in a different district. So it occurs to me that there are only two ways for people to go to Rancho or Valley Springs proper. The first one is down a dangerous, scary, windy, downhill road and out through Quail Oaks to 26. Or you can go down Blair, and there's one other street too, to Silver Rapids to 26. If you were to go to Ross Drive and want to go to the other side of the street behind those houses, you can't. It's a mountain. It just drops off. And so anything over there, those people aren't going to try to get to 26 in Valley Springs by going down that scary road. They're going to have to come back down through Silver Rapids, Rancho, to go wherever they want to go, or take their life in their own hands. I can't imagine anyone ever venturing down that scary option 1 after having done so earlier. Traveling up that road, you're constantly thinking and watching for a vehicle flying down like a fun go-kart run. It can and does become a life or death obstacle course. So both sides of Ross Road, this section of Ross Road, I believe should remain in District 5 for safety reasons and to preserve a community of interest. So thank you, and I'm so impressed.
Thank you, Ms. Crane.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Amy Augustine, City of Angels Camp Planning Director. Probably be easier to hear me this way. The city's primary goal is to make sure that no matter what happens, and we understand you have an impossible job to do, is that at least the city boundaries as they currently exist, the incorporated boundaries, stay intact. That's our primary interest. That does not happen on Public Draft 1A, which removes a portion of the incorporated city located north of the bypass. A lot of people don't realize PG&E is actually part of the city. So we would ask that there's 3 small census tracts there, all with zeros, be put back into the city limits. Secondarily, we would like to see our primary sphere of influence left intact, understanding that that can't always be the case. Draft 1C removes one small corner of that in what would, off of Capello, where we do have a lot of planned development. It's not the end of the world for us to not have that in our district because most of our proposed annexations will be coming southwest, southeast of the city. So while we'd rather not live with that, we can. The only thing we cannot live with is having any part of the incorporated city removed. And lastly, again, we consider ourselves a community of interest. Obviously, if Rancho is going to be considered a community of interest, us being smaller, we still consider ourselves a community of interest. We happen to be incorporated. And again, I believe that regulation was based on much larger cities that would make sense to split up. Angels is not one of those. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Augustine.
Yeah, I got a question for you guys. I'm surrounded by illegal grows, and I don't have no water at my house for right now as it rains, and I want to know what you guys are going to do about it. That's what I'm here for. So your county made me move my water tanks, and I can't get water up my road because it's a gravel road, and now I have no shower,
This is
I
a
have no water,
redistricting
it's
hearing,
raining, I'm
sir.
surrounded by illegal grows that you guys are profiting off of, and I want to know how you're going to bring water up to my house.
As chair of the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors, I'm declaring this person is willfully interrupting the public meeting.
I don't care what it is.
All right, we'll move on. Thank you. Ralph Copeland, do you want to follow that up?
Oh, heck yeah. I got a lot of water. Okay, first, Mr. Stopper, if you read all the Copperopolis comments, you will see there is Diamond 20 mentioned in most of the Copperopolis, just not the one or two. I'd also like to make the note as far as respondents to Supervisor Garamendi, we have over 20 comments for not splitting Copperopolis, where San Andres got 2 and Vallecito maybe 9 or 10 at the most. So yes, it's very important for Copper not to be split, and it shouldn't be split just because San Andreas is split and Vallecito is split. That being said, aside from D4 Supervisor Amanda Follendorf, whoever adopts Rancheria del Rio Estanciolo, which is the property that will become Tuscany Hills. That is a property behind the wastewater treatment plant, and the property runs to the water. You will be inheriting a hornet's nest in regards to future development. It's a planned gated golfing community, building on the lake and establishing a boat launch. This will bring a recreational and environmental nightmare to Lake Tulloch. CCWD is playing a shell game with the ag projections and sandbagging water futures for the future golf courses. This is what, if Supervisor Topanelli or Stopper will have to deal with in the upcoming years. So that puts Copperopolis dealing with 2 supervisors regarding our growth and our construction. And we have a water district who is not really working with existing lines. Anyway, I'm asking the supervisors to balance these elevated property rights with sustainability. And you can do this by keeping Copperopolis whole. So again, I'm sorry for bouncing around a little bit, but again, if you come down and split Copperopolis, just be ready for dealing with the proposed construction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Copeland. Roberta.
Hello. I just wanted to kind of iterate in what Marty and Colleen said about this little pocket up in Rancho, and you could see it on Colleen's map up here in this little blue section here. And they want to put it in District 1, and there's no way for us to even get to District 1 without going through private or gravel roads up over Ross. So it really only makes sense to keep it in the Rancho District 5. Also, I did have one question about the growth in Gold Creek. That's going to, in the next year or two, probably increase in population over 200. Is that something that we should be considering in these plans, or we can't do it because it wasn't in the census?
You just answered your own question.
Sometimes I just need
But it's,
some
you know, it's a
confirmation.
legitimate one I had early on in the process.
Okay, so therefore, but besides being not able to get to District 1 without going through District 5 in this little pocket, I also agree that just take a little bit from La Contenta. It's been split. It doesn't seem like they have a lot of input. They really are more of the community of the Gold Creek HOA style of living, and it would just make more sense to move a couple streets there if you need to take the population to make up for this little corner of Rancho. And that's really all I have to say about that little corner of Rancho. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time, Roberta.
We have some hands up.
Ms. Glanville,
I do
when
have
you're ready.
one public comment online, and they are unmuted and can speak now. Mickey, if you can hear us, you're unmuted and you can start speaking to the board.
There, okay. Thank you. Good afternoon. I just wanted to make an additional comment about Murphy's Pines, because I am one who has advocated for it at least not to be in D2, which for access doesn't make sense, but we actually have always been in D4. So I just wanted to mention that if, say, moving Vallecito, all of it into D3, needed some offset, I don't know how much of it is, but Murphy's Pines has always been in D4 as long as I've lived here, which is 23 years. It always seems to me to make more sense to be with Murphy's because I don't particularly go towards the Angels and Copper side, but I just wanted to say that for perspective to people, actually being in a district where you don't feel like is your community of interest can be very interesting because when we did a lot of campaigning for Amanda, I got to know Angels and Copperopolis very well, and I never would have had I not been in that district. So just throw that into the pot. That's all.
Thank you. Further public comment online?
There is one more. Janet, you can go ahead and make your comment now.
Good afternoon, Janet Sterling, and I am a resident of Diamond 20, and as has stated previously at this meeting, at the last meeting, Diamond 20, now I am on the south side of Diamond 20, and I know my neighbors also have made a few comments. They've written in a few comments, and we would prefer, again, to stay with Copper because that's who we associate with, is Copper and Angels, as I stated at the last meeting. So I know looking at the maps, we've got one map that was draft 1A that splits Diamond 20, which obviously we prefer not to be split, but if we did, the north side seems to be less concerned with their, with the issues that we have. It's split, which makes logical sense to be split along the Highway 4 corridor. So again, we would just ask that that Diamond 20, at least the south side of Diamond 20, stay with Copper and Angels in D4. Thank you.
Thank you. No further comment? I'll bring it back to the board. I'll go ahead and start. Working off of 1C, I think there's some concessions here we can make in Rancho Calaveras to address the issue. Personally, I think this map here, looking at it with District 1, it's nothing different than not much different than what we have in our draft 1C here. Come on, there it goes. Gotta find my mouse piece here. But Mr. Toffanelli, could we discuss I'm not talking both sides of Ross, I don't think. I'm talking more so going, or 2C. I'm sorry. 1C. I'm all over the place here. 1C and the submission by Ms. Colleen Platt here. And then there's, to make up on some of those numbers, Mr. Toffenelli goes down the west side of the county towards 26 and across 26 there. I think we could even out the numbers there a little bit and address some of the community of interest issues. I'm a lot more comfortable with the population being close to what it is if we address some more of these community of interest issues when it comes to the deviation. What do you think, sir?
Well, Rebecca, when you said you this morning used this information on a map, were you putting this information on 1C? Which map were you putting this into?
It's not one that's drafted yet.
It's actually a version that we're calling 2D, but it would do the same thing for this variation, I believe. If you followed the lines that they're suggesting, they are taking the same amount of population on each side and just shifting it. So I think it's a plausible line so that it won't change the overall population of either side. Well, it'll change it slightly, but not as significantly of either side of District 1 or 5.
But that depends on the rest of the map. That's why I'm saying, are you adding this to the draft 1C and leaving the rest of 1C the same? Because if you change it, if you add this on 1A or 1D or what have you, it's going to change. So you're looking at 1C and redoing these lines on the map that we decided we were going to go by.
I have not made the changes on 1C. However, I do believe that it would make the same population shift changes to either side of District 1 and 5 if we followed that line.
Okay.
I could be missing something, but I think if we went down that route, we would.
And I do appreciate this map they put forward because it's along the same lines as I was thinking to some extent. There's certain things I think here we can still work one way or the other. I mean, the block of 113, I believe it's 113 up there on the upper part is a substantial block that goes all the way around, trying to remember the name of the road. I drive out it all the time. There's good people out there. Quell Oaks, the backside. I mean, that's a fairly substantial block, but, as Ms. Colleen Platt did say, Rancho does cut up in there, but there's, if this line they have drawn here in the blue definitely addresses some of the parts of Rancho while leaving Valley Hills Estates intact.
Should we have Doug share the map again?
I would appreciate that.
Okay, Doug, would you mind? And I just sent you the map version that we're talking about as well.
And then we can pick up the population down here when you go over to Olive Orchard Estates on the southwest side. There's a big block there, 135, that's picked up. The 107, I mean, there's substantial blocks that can be moved on the west side of the county that can pick up on population to make up for that. And I think there's already a portion of La Cantena that was put back onto with Vista del Lago in 1C that I would think we could leave the same. I mean, we could concede that those census blocks are splitting those areas, and we don't necessarily need to change those because you get into a substantial population in there very quickly that would throw our numbers sideways. I think that would be a large step to addressing the community of interest for Rancho with a few concessions.
That's for Rancho, but it's going back, splitting La Quintana, current 2C.
Or 1C.
Or 1C, East La Quintana.
Well, yes and no. I mean, that's what I was just saying is, look, the current 1C, let's keep La Quintana, the line as it is in 1C, and then work on conceding on the concessions on the west side of Rancho Calaveras.
Okay, here's where I'm at. I'm not La Quintana. I'm already having to deal with splitting San Andreas in District 1 with District 2. Now you're wanting, after we draw this, you're going to want to split La Quintana. So basically, those two communities, I'm giving up the split, and everybody's trying to keep theirs whole. I don't agree with it. I'm sorry, this is a nice map, this is good, I understand what they're trying to do, but there's a block of 236 of La Quintana.
No, that's what I just said. I'm leaving that. I said let's leave that as it is, and then work on the west portion.
Okay.
In 1C.
Understood what you were saying.
No, I'm trying to concede that right now. It's a big block, and it would really confuse things for us and be harder for us to fix the numbers. And it's part of a concession.
My apologies, I misunderstood what you were saying when you were saying.
My apologies, Gary. I'm trying to
So you're
work
looking
it this way.
to find another 236 or close to it to keep the, and when you drew this up, how far apart were the numbers? What did it show, District 1 number and District 5 number now?
They were both in the 87, 8,800 range.
87. Very difficult.
I know it all is, Mr. Toffnelly, and I'm not saying that La Quintana isn't as important as Rancho as a community of interest. It's just the census blocks confuse it all for us. I'll concede to 1C in La Quintana, and then let's work on the west.
Well, I'm looking. It's difficult to get access.
What if we took the district boundary line right now between 1 and 5 all the way to the highway so that we followed the highway out of the county for the time being, minus where it's falling. Start at Olive Orchard, where it is now, go to that
I'm just looking at that.
block that's 135, put everything that block 135 over to District 1. Could we start with that and then go up to West Calaveras and look at
We've
it?
had this conversation. It works for giving you substantial population to make up for some of the concessions
on the upper part of this.
The upper west.
I'm not opposed to the upper part of that. I think it's a good map of what's drawn here, because it does keep Rancho in that area and in Valley Hills Estates.
I think they did a good job in finding a reasonable split there.
And the 135 is what I had up looking at now, along with that other block that's 12 and 11 below it.
Here, let me zoom in on the right part of my computer because which part are you looking at, Mr. Toffenelli?
She's talking about this 135.
Oh, that 135?
Yeah, that Olive Orchard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the 12, and the 11.
Right, no, and the 36 and the 17 and the 32.
Well, I guess we could.
We could go all the way to the county line. We could. And we could cross the highway in some spots and hit Milton Road. There's possibilities there, and there's quite a few hundred population to work with on that end. So we have options there.
What's the total? I see 113, 70.
We could move it over and then always hit undo if you want to get the total.
So 113.
Go ahead and do it, Ms. Turner, so that
78, 40, 30, 21.
Doug, do you want to go ahead and take, along the highway, there is leave 19 in the District 5, and then directly below 119 is a 136.
Yeah.
You take 136 over and then follow the highway for now, the rest of the way down. There you Yeah. So right now, that puts District 5 down to 7,700.
Right.
And moves District 1 up to 10,000. So do you want to go to West Calaveras and make adjustments there?
I would like to, if that's all right, by
West
Supervisor
Calaveras,
Toffenelli.
Rancho Calaveras.
Let's investigate it. I'm open to that.
Good work, because we can always hit undo. Although I think some
So-
people will be irritated with me if I hit undo on this.
The block with Ross Drive,
Yes.
can you make that District 5? And then those blocks inside, yes. Can we look at the population now? I think that was, so that brings District 5 up to 8,306, but now we have District 1 at 9,622.
And we want to leave block antenna as it was in 1C, correct, Mr. Toffenelli? And we're comfortable, there's a little loss of block antenna there, but there's a little loss of range there also. I think, I want to see what else here that I'm missing. So, Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you ladies.
So those numbers that you have up there,
Those are the current numbers, the way it's drawn now.
no, I'm talking about in this area that you just took in. Those are different than what's on here, on the map, on the website. You have 113, 30, 21, 78, 40.
Yeah, Doug, do we have the right population layer in there?
Okay, so you did the, okay.
Because the 114 I do have as 113.
That 174 must be what these other smaller ones add up to.
If you zoom in more.
174 there, so that can't be here. Yeah, then, oh, there you go.
There you go. You just can't see them when it's zoomed out.
You didn't see them as that small.
Oh.
Okay, 114 is different.
So, with that, we have you going up substantially in population. I mean, we could take some of the stuff like going down 26 to bring it back to where it is, or maybe put Olive Orchard Estates as a 135 to start back in, or what is that number there on Olive Orchard Estates? 136, right? Where does this work, Mr. Toffanelli? Because Olive Orchard and Garner are kind of like the same road. People go both ways, and
one side is Garner, one side.
right. Traditionally, it's all rural out that way, so we can't say they identify with one or the other more. Did we go up a little farther towards Berkesee and see where we're at on that line? I just want to see where it pans out. Okay, so that was moved up from Berkesee to the next road below Crestview Drive. So that leaves that 376 intact, or 370 some odd. Can't read that number from here. 378. And yeah, no, that's that. I think we can't do anything with that there at all. So, pan back south.
Down the Olive Orchard.
The 136.
And 107.
That would bring those two numbers a lot closer for right now, and then we could play those numbers back and forth later as we work on other areas of.
So the way it is now, we haven't heard anything from Olive Orchard Estates, but it does keep Olive Orchard whole. I don't know if you want to look at the south side of the highway. It's rural down there. There's not necessarily a subdivision that I'm aware of, and pull that way.
We don't need to move any more population from the south side of the highway to District 1 anymore because of the numbers the way they are.
No, you're exactly
so
right. Sorry.
I think
No.
those two, try putting those two population blocks in District 5, please.
Right now, 26, north and south,
Sorry, I'm confusing that.
136 right there and the 12.
And the 10, what's that higher number up there? 106.
We have to go up to where the top of that is again.
Right, that's because those are both Olive Orchard Estates, the 107 and the 136.
It may fall as a part of. Can you drop down, son? And then the top of that 107, because it could go over the hill into Valley Hills.
There's what are our numbers at right now? Just real quick. Much closer, but we still gotta go. What about those 225s right there?
We're at 93 and. Hang on.
Okay.
Hang on. I don't know what those are.
Those are the other side of Olive Orchard where they have more Olive Orchard Estates. It was the same development.
All right.
And I do believe it does not go into Hillville there. It leaves that 376 and 58.
Yeah, Lakeview Road.
Stops before it goes down it. Here we can you go ahead and lay down the Hillville community boundary real quick so we can see where it sits on that map right there? I don't see it. I only see a red line. And that goes across the highway into Rancho. There it is.
Okay, what does that give us population-wise now?
Can you pull the population up, Doug? Oh, he just had it.
Off the top of my head, near 8650, but could be a plus or minus 40 or something.
District 5, 8658, and District 1, 9270.
Yeah.
So what is that a minus? That's too far below, correct, because of the other districts?
We could work down towards the, more down 26 a little ways and take a look in that area.
Yeah.
There's some substantial ones, but I don't think we need to do too many substantial ones.
Can you enlarge that just a little bit? That one we're looking at right here now was District 5 prior.
Mostly, yes. That 211's quite a hit, but we have that one side of Burson Road coming off of from that 107 where I put on the 36, and then a 37, a 49, and a 1732 and 7 right in that area.
Can I add in this version, we still need to adjust the split between District 4 and 5 as well, so that could impact the population of 5?
No, that could pick it up, and then there's actually a little left in District 1 to be able to maybe possibly work something with District 2 right now. I don't know. Just a suggestion.
So do we want?
So I'm comfortable with that right now, and then we need to discuss how we're going to work with the disparity of some of the other districts. And that gives us a little room to work with, possibly. Are you okay with that so far, Mr. Toffnelli?
Which ones did we just include?
We didn't add, did Doug add those other ones I was just talking about on both sides of Burson Road there, South Burson Road, towards the highway? There's a 36, a 17, a 12.
No.
Okay, so we didn't do those yet. So we're just, for right now, for the moment.
That's fine.
All right, but I can't be doing this every time, Ms. Platt. What is it?
I'm just concerned you might have overlooked, or maybe I'm confused, one part of the existing boundary up between La Contenta and Rancho, what it is now. There's a big part that got put in District 1.
Right, and we
on purpose,
were
that's
just
230.
discussing that, and
Okay.
right now, a majority of those homes are La Contenta. So,
Okay.
Working with trying to get the population right. Right now, we're going to leave that as is.
Okay.
And,
Yeah, it
I
took some
appreciate the
Rancho
rest of the
people.
comment, though.
Yeah, because it took a lot of Rancho people. Okay, thank
It's
you.
a substantial population. No worries. Okay. We just made a pretty good change to the map. I'm really happy with what we did there for Rancho. Can we possibly have a supervisor do any recommendations on what they're able to work with? Ms. Follendorf, you got a big number there.
We're looking at trying to reduce your number.
Right, yeah, and just to say, I know you're talking with Ms. Callaway, but Ms. Callaway's already near a good number.
So we could make the shift and see what it looks like and do the same thing we just did and hit undo if it doesn't work and move all of Vallecito to start with into District 3.
Let's do that and see what happens to the numbers.
I was going to say, do you want to do that and then run the percentages?
Isn't that what just everyone said 3 times in a row? That's
actually
right, what the
hit
what
the
the
button
numbers.
that actually calculates percentages.
Yeah. So, Doug, if you could pull down all the way to the 4, yeah, and then that leg there, the 16 and the 80, or is it 60? Yeah, that line. The line we drew as the Vallecito if it all went to District 3. Yeah, perfect. And that puts District 3 at 95.25. We could make if we went to Folan Road right by Indian Creek, I think it brings District 3 down far enough. We also could look at going towards Murphy's Pines on Darby and French Gulch and pull a little bit more into 4 to accommodate. Those are areas I have made concessions to get the population adjusted. So in here, there's the 83 that is actually, I think that's where the Studio 4 Fitness is. Historically, that side has been in District 4, but it would be splitting it from the rest of Vallecito. Or is the opposite?
The back part behind the fitness.
He's always been in
in
District
3.
Yes, you're right. And the rest of what was in Vallecito,
And
the
the
southern
rest
part.
was in 4.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think Supervisor Follendorf and I somewhat agree if we're going to split Vallecito,
Do
it should be at the highway.
Okay, let's go north then, and look at the Darby-Wessel French Gulch area. South, sorry, at the border between District 3 and District 4.
That's not even close to that.
It's
down there, closer to Angel.
Doug, can you go south, more like 6 by 6 Mile, sorry. I'm just moving you all around. I can only see a little bit of the screen. What is that? No, that's 6 Mile there, that block. Do you want to look at splitting at Folan Road by the Indian Creek? That's the difference between District 2 and District 3. Okay. Can we go up to Folan Road?
D3 on the south and D2 on the north.
So can we split at Folan Road, putting everything north into D2? That 5 as well, I think. Yeah, what's that do? I think that's where it has to stop, yeah.
I want his road money, though, that was allocated.
Okay. Can we run the calculator, Doug?
That was last year's list.
Fallendorf Road is in D3. And because of conflict of interest, it has to stay there.
How close are we to percentages?
I draw a circle around
Doug, can you run the stats on that?
Susan's asking us not to chit chat unless we have our mics on.
Thank you.
Susan, I'm running this meeting.
Can we look at the details on the overall range?
I turned it on.
8.85. That's what I believe so.
District 2 and District 5.
Sarah, I'm sorry, what is it that you're saying?
We're looking at, so Doug just ran for us the percentage deviations, or the deviations in population off of our target of 9061. And we have here the smallest district is 4.45% below the target, and the largest district is 4.4% above the target. So the range between the highest and the lowest is 8.85.
So we're within a range of an appropriate deviation because we reduced it from 9.1 to 8.8? Oh, I'm sorry.
Courts have generally held that so long as it's under a 10% deviation, and if we're adhering to the other criteria, that's generally broadly permissible. So what I think we would be looking to here with a deviation that is of that number, is to see whether we've mainly achieved keeping communities of interest together.
I think since District 5 is the most out of whack, it is one of the easier ones to adjust now. We do have kind of an odd line between District 4 and District 5 that we could potentially clean up if we went along there.
I was also looking at that, but I think, I just want to make sure that I'm looking at this right from the last time. Is Circle 20 in District 4 right now as per the 1C?
It's in District 5 minus the top portion of Circle 20 is in District 1. There's like a little cutout that's in District 1.
Could we look at that and possibly making that whole one way or the other? And that I'm not sure. Can we focus in on that area? You could see the numbers and the outsides of the lines and all the fun stuff.
Could you add in the subdivisions or the CSAs, Doug, so we could see the outline?
Quite a bit of it's still in.
Yeah. Sorry, it was my version that I cleaned up and put it all in 5.
Right. That's what I'm trying to look at right now. There it is.
Ms. Edwards, excuse me, can I ask Ben? So what would happen, or could we just do vote at large versus by district? Is that allowed under the state constitution?
No, is the short answer.
Okay, then we could close up shop for the day.
Yes, then we wouldn't have to do any redistricting at all.
Wow. You get everybody voting for a few. Never mind, I'm not going down that rabbit hole.
thoughts here?
So
Let's see, what are your numbers right now as opposed to, what are District 1's numbers as opposed to District 5? District 1 has how many? I can't read that.
92, 70 versus 86, 58.
How many is that in that area? It looks like you got 11 and there's a big 60 there or something now, huh?
is there opposition
I think
to
we would
putting?
want to keep it to one side of pool station, right?
Thank you. There's 192 in that section that's blue right now.
192. And you're at,
That would bring me down to 9,078.
that would put you right in the ballpark of the perfect number within single digits or double digits, but I would like to, I think that's a pretty good area for bringing that number closer.
So we're moving it to 5.
I'll say yes.
Okay. Then do we want to put the Capella Park of 202 back to District 4 or to 5?
Where's the numbers at District 4?
District 4 is sitting right at 9,100, so they probably could afford to take the Capella Park back, and I think that would make the city.
Capella Park, but where's District 5 sitting?
District 5 is now at 8,850.
Okay, what's the numbers in Capella Park? Let's just look at that.
202.
202? It puts it down to 8,600. We're moonwalking again.
No, it's in District 1 right now, so it has to go somewhere because we just cut it off from District 1.
Oh.
Yeah, it cuts them off as an island. You can't do that.
Can we drop that 60, up the top right-hand corner of there of Circle 20? How many is that, 80?
Looks like 60. But that's dividing Circle 20, is it not?
My new glasses don't come in until tomorrow, so of course the day after the meeting.
Well, what is the ones that's in blue that says 7?
Yeah.
Right there.
What is that, District 2?
That's District 2.
Lucky number 11.
District 2 right now is at 8754. No, yeah, 8754.
Sure, we just added some in there. Is that update?
Well, we're trying to see the purple, it's an island right now.
I'm trying to see those numbers, they're really small.
Just,
Yeah.
now they're even small. In that one block that says 7, would only take 7 out of District 2, but it would connect District 1 back to.
Seems fine.
Does that work? Ms. Turner?
So
No?
that pool station all the way down there, Gary?
Yeah.
I would suggest sticking it back in District 4, but
You want to put it back to the 202, back to District 4?
yeah, we just
And then
took all
she
of
would-
Vallecito
and then-
out
and
of
then
District
she would
4.
She would be back up to 9,400, 93.
Right. Yeah, they're over. I mean, we aren't stacking 2 districts on that side of the county.
You know what? Take that, put the 7 back in District 2. And what happens to her numbers if you put the 202 in District 2 also?
Your numbers go down
My numbers go down.
by 200.
But I'm already at 9,078, so I'd be down to 8,888 or 8,888 or something. 86.
Could we, could we try running the numbers with, running the range again, the percentages with the 202 and 4?
And 4?
Just to see if we're, well, unless I'm
Not
mistaken,
in
is that?
one, the
it's
way
coming-
it stands. That's how much I can say.
Am I incorrect that that's coming up towards the city?
That is, that's why I keep calling it Capella
Okay,
Park. It is the
okay.
Capella Ballpark.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's why I suggested putting it in 4 and seeing if the numbers work.
Can we do that and then run the numbers? Is that all right? Okay. Can you put the 202 and the 0 above 202 to District 4? Thank you.
There you go.
What happened there?
Oh, it's the four corners.
District 4, it's the 4 corners. And that's part of what the city came and said they wanted to include. that we took out last week.
3.37. We're,
7,
less than 8.
7.79.
7.79?
we just addressed Circle 20 as a community of interest. We just addressed Angels Camp as a larger community of interest or a city.
Vallecito's.
Vallecito's addressed. We've got a small issue down there in Diamond 20 on the south side of the county.
Can we look
Can we
at
look
that?
at that? And we're going to have to decide what we're going to do there. And I think we're really strongly addressing a majority of the communities of interest in the county at that point. You know, nothing's going to be perfect. We've admitted this from the beginning.
Do we want to put the 32 back in District 4 and see if it can accommodate it?
Yeah, go ahead and do the 32 and that little red spot over there that'll be left out after the 32.
Yeah, you have to give it-
Right there.
Yeah.
I think it's a 0.
Yeah. at the
0
bottom.
down there, those are.
Right.
Can you run the range check again, Doug?
That's the real Baja Calaveras.
That puts District 4 at 93.
That's not too bad. That was fairly significant on the numbers. So we just addressed Diamond 20 being Copperopolis as a whole for the most part, right? Am I
Yeah.
correct?
I think the only thing we split off is a tiny portion of Copper, which we have had comments to suggest that that is not,
So what's the number
They're
of
not
that
that-
block? Because it's so large.
the boot right there.
Yeah, the booth. What's the number on the total booth?
Well, that, north of that, Doug, sorry.
Just click on it and then hit information.
It's 28, or 20. Right there, that's 20.
20?
Yeah. Go south.
South. Yeah, no, that's a little hook there. Put that in District 4. The 20, that boot.
The boot?
It's in District 4.
Oh, okay, never mind. What's that large section going in?
That's 77. It goes from Salt Springs
Right,
all the
yeah.
way up to
That's,
the boundary of Copper.
sometimes I just don't understand why they drew things that way, but.
Some of the blocks.
Right.
And the 0 down there too, I guess.
77 there?
And 0.
that would substantially change the numbers for the worse.
We
Leave
could-
that in District 5 for now.
Okay, I say we could do it and run the numbers, but yeah, put it back to 5. Thank you.
All right. At this point, you know, District 4's climbed in some numbers a little bit, and District 5's back down to 8818.
8876. Jack's at 8754. Marita and Amanda.
Oh, so many good people over there.
Gary, could you read the numbers out? I can't see them over here for each of the districts as it is now.
We can't do a split screen, right? We get numbers here.
We're running up on 1,300 hours. I'm getting hungry. And staff's got to take a lunch. So I think we've done some good work here. I think we can do a little bit more after lunch. But I think we're getting quite a bit closer to something that works.
Does that mean Ralph's going to buy us lunch? Is that what he's staying out there?
Dessert, lunch, dinner?
Oh no. If we change it after you buy us lunch.
There's no such thing as a free lunch, right?
We'll stop at that. Lunch? We're all good with lunch, right? Thank you. Miss.
What time are we going to come back?
Oh, my apologies. Let's come back at 2:30.
2:30.
It's almost 1:10 now.
2:30.
Okay, I'm going to stop everything then.
Welcome back. We're continuing our redistricting. We're in the middle of deliberation. We're starting to talk about where were we at, Ms. Turner? I think we just moved Diamond 20 back into District 4. We'd addressed Circle 20. We addressed Rancho. You know, I think we brought our numbers in a little closer from where we're at on total population, but we've definitely addressed many communities of interest along with Vallecito. So is there any other interests by the board at this time?
Mr. Chair, can we throw up the numbers again just so we figure out where we're sitting?
I think we have the technology.
Doug, can
Bigger,
you
stronger,
share
faster.
your screen again? They specifically want to see where the numbers left off on the last map.
And that's as big as it, well, it's bigger than it's been. So.
Gary, could you please read them
Oh,
out?
that's
I
cool.
can't see it.
Do you want the numbers? District 1 is 8876. District
Wait, go ahead.
Okay, District 1 is 8876. District 2 is 8754. District 3 is 9460. District 4 is 9398. And District 5 is 8818.
Thank you.
What's our deviation?
Will you run? Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
It's 7.7. No.
7.79.
Thank you.
Yeah, so District 3 is 4.4% over the 9061, and
Two is
3.39% below. But that is within a cumulative less than
Which
10%.
is only 24 people off of District 5.
There's not a huge, they're fairly bunched.
The District 2, District 5, and District 1 are really close. But with addressing a lot of the communities of interest, I'm much more comfortable with this than where we were when we left the last meeting.
Can you show the whole map again, Doug?
I mean, we might be able to do a little work here and there for population, but it's...
Can I ask if there's a reason we left the boot imprint from 4 into 5? Like, I don't recall the rationale for that. I don't know what's in there.
I might want to look at it a little bit, but...
Yeah, there's 20 people in that population block.
I'll take it.
Squares it off.
As long as there isn't anything special there. It's still in the wrong color.
So I don't think, were we trying to keep it together with something else or no?
I don't think it was related to any subdivision particularly, so that's why I'm asking if I'm missing something.
Then yeah, I agree that it would make sense for compactness purposes and population purposes to put it with 5.
It just doesn't want to cooperate.
He had to run something. Yeah, can we move that to 5?
Doug's like the Wizard of Oz. We don't hear him, but he's just moving things around.
He is Oz.
He is Oz.
This might be a good nickname for him.
Behind the curtain.
Who is that mask man?
Is there any other interests of the board?
I do have a couple questions. Can we go into, click on San Andreas?
Can you zoom into San Andreas?
Can you click on San Andreas, please? And I really haven't heard a lot from anybody in San Andreas concerning this map. There has been a few people. I am looking, you're going to have to go in closer. See that little blue strip, or that little purple strip right there?
Which one, the one on 49?
Yeah.
It's got 10 people?
It says,
Doug, it's...
I showed it, it says 0. And it's still like a...
Looking at the one on 146. It's Hathaway Place. Look at this one there. Oh, yeah.
That's that little purple
strip in there?
Yeah, and it doesn't show any population, so is there any reason that block shouldn't be moved? You see it?
Yeah,
it just doesn't.
It squares it off. Yeah, that's kind of weird. Let's clean that up. It's an easy one. Doug, the little finger?
Supervisor Garamendi, if you can turn your mic on.
The little finger piece, I think, is what Gary's talking about. To the west of that 80 of Toyanza.
And that's where the tractor is, the tractor business, and
A1, sure, A1. Yeah.
and that block just says 0. And
Gary, we get that little thumb.
It's all
It's right.
businesses.
It's right on.
I mean, we can keep it in District 1, but
It's squared off. There's there's that little 10-acre on Hathaway Place too. 10 people want to square that.
The The block south of the one that's 275 that comes out, is that a single block that can be put into District 2?
I'm wondering if that's just a very strangely drawn.
It's part of that 270, although it has its own number, 0.
Well, you got to zoom in, right there.
Yes, that one. Right below it, the tail that comes off of it, is that part of the population block?
That's not
It's
what I'm on this map that I'm looking at.
It's got a 0 on there, yeah.
Yeah, District 2.
Yeah, that, it shows a 0 on this map, it's on the website.
Yep.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is, 0.
You want to clean up that 10, Gary? Or, I mean, you know the dirt.
10?
There's that little 10 right up there. It's like on the, right there.
there?
Doug's got his,
Okay.
just to clean it up.
10 is. Okay, where does that put us?
Real close to what we had.
I think we just changed 10 people. So 856. Oh, wait.
I don't know.
Doug, can you scroll to the left so we could see? Sorry. Doug, can you scroll to the left so we could see the spreadsheet, the Excel file below it? Gary was just asking what the totals are.
Oh, just the numbers. Just bring those back up from the bottom.
But we couldn't see because.
The population
There
there
you
is
go.
right there.
There you go. Okay, but the percentage difference, I think, because I gave him
10.
It's going to bring down the percentage.
That should have made it very slightly better, yes.
Should bring it down to maybe 7, something, 7.
So how are we going to divide up Angels Camp?
64, 9.
It's still
That's
saying
it.
7, 9?
It's a 7.68.
Yeah, there you go, you're closer.
It is closer.
Cleans it up.
You know,
Anything else we need to clean up?
unless there's other concerns by other board members, I'm feeling like we're really close to a document here we might be able to work with. I think that there is some variance in the numbers, but I think that we've addressed some communities of interest. We addressed the city comments as their own community of interest. I think the only one that we can't really solve, because it's right in the middle of the county, is San Andreas, which there weren't a lot of comments on, not that it doesn't matter.
No, that's not that it doesn't matter, because it does. I didn't want to break it up.
But there were far fewer comments regarding San Andreas being a community of interest than a lot of others.
Like tomorrow, there won't be though.
That's very true.
We had to strike the balance between geography, communities of interest, all these different things, and, you know, I don't think that's, I think it makes reasonable sense for what we've got to deal with. Keeps the core of it together, the historical district, town hall, all that stays in D1, and move around the edges a little bit.
And we got 4 corners right there. I mean,
Tourist attraction.
right?
Where's that? 4 Corners right there on Pool Station?
That's the 4 corners.
Sorry, Marita, we couldn't get you there.
I know.
You're just like, you're out, right? You're not part of the, you could, that exact corner, we could go there and be standing in 4 districts. So maybe I'll buy that property and put a house on it, vote for all 4.
Or rent out,
Right.
rent out sign space during campaign season.
Just want to clarify. That's not how it works.
What, we can't put our house in the middle of the road?
No, the house would have to be in one of the districts. It could not be in all four. So we'd figure out where your bed was in the house, we'd do something, but you wouldn't get to vote on everyone.
Well, the other 3 accessory dwelling units.
I'm going to bed, I'm going to District 1.
The good news,
Where is the Four Corners?
Near Full Station outside of San Andres, is that right?
Full station and where?
Just go zoom in a little bit more. I can't read
George
that.
Reed's right there, so it's before George.
is that before George? No, is that, you've got the, well, it should be the best maintained road with 4 supervisors keeping an eye on it.
Mr. Wilson will stop coming in and making comments on the potholes.
Well, there's going to be 4 of us paying attention.
Okay,
Didn't cross mine.
beyond the jokes. Are we comfortable with this? Amanda's a yes. Mr. Toffenelli? Yes. I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
Ms. Garamendi? Ms. Callaway? Yes?
Yes.
So, Ms. Turner, can we set up a date for all this? And what do we have to make a vote on this right now? Or,
No.
I don't believe so. So,
No, there's nothing to be voted on today. And I'll let Ms.
Can we do this though today and vote on eliminating all the other maps? This is our primary map, or do we have to keep going?
So I think what we can say and push out is that this is the board's draft map that it intends to adopt. And that will be then released out into the world for folks to comment on prior to the board actually voting to adopt it. Does that make sense?
Yes. Can I ask before we do is, sorry, the city asked that we look at 2 APNs specifically that had 0 population in them and make sure that they were part of whatever district the city was in. Can we look at those 2 and see if they were incorporated in this map as part of District 4, or do you not want to look at that?
no.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I'm not serious.
Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead and look at them, but
I have-
doesn't mean we're changing anything right now.
They are on the border of District 3 and District 4 in some of the versions of the map. I don't know on this version in particular where they ended up. Doug, if I give you the APNs, can you zoom into that area?
That's District 2 and District 4, isn't that?
That's District 2 and District 4, is it not?
I could be wrong,
I mean,
but
there's no population there,
Yes.
so if,
Do you happen to have parcels up that if I...
that's right down at the bottom of that cane before it starts going up on
So-
Dogtown.
is that 49 right
Amanda,
there?
that's right where it starts going up Dogtown, is that correct?
The parcel number is 57-003-011. Not sure if that helps you or not. I believe it ended up in District 4. And it,
Can you scroll, Doug, can you scroll up a little bit, back up towards San Domingo?
The left hand, upper left.
Okay, I got a road there. There's no population. Amanda, does your district have any connection to that? Do you want that in there? It doesn't change any of our numbers. Those 2 0-0 lots? Even,
I think it's the 4 that, it didn't matter. No, that's kind of where that border is.
it's the road.
Once you cross the bridge right there, it's kind of like the natural barrier between the 2, right?
Okay.
I think it's fine.
All right.
either way you do it, I don't care. As the elections official, I'd
Right,
say
coming
square
down
it
San
off
Domingo
because
and
it
start
makes
going
one
back
less
up.
ballot type, because that's the school district line.
It's a pretty piece of the world. It's lovely.
Well, yay, nay, maybe.
Are you still checking on those APNs? Or yeah, they're still checking.
Can you go up to the, Doug, can you scroll up to the right corner?
They keep giving them other directions.
That, Amanda, that 0-1 right there between Merida between 3, 4, and 2. That's on the south side of San Domingo? I'm pretty sure. You think it'd be easier to use that road as a natural divider? Hey, Rebecca? Can we take that 0, can we scroll down a little bit, Doug? Just go south a little bit so you can see that. You see that those 2 0 lots, or excuse me, that 0 right between District 3, 4, and 2, that one? That's right on the road. If we could use that road as a natural delineator, I mean, it could go in Marita's or Amanda's district, but it'd make it easier to figure out.
Yeah.
Just use the road.
Those 2 zeros would go in District 3 that are right over, stacked on each other. The other 0 could go in District 4.
Yeah.
Correct?
Why don't we just take those 2 zeros, there's no bodies in there, and then and put that in 4, and then take the one up in the top right and put it over in Marita's, and that way we have a road as a... Oh, maybe just take the 1 0.
You got 2 other zeros on the road too there.
Yeah.
If you keep shuffling zeros, I'm going to stop you and call it.
That's close. That
If
follows
I
the road.
had
That
it,
makes sense.
I would vote that you put that 0 back because that school district boundary, what it does for, just from the elections perspective, it creates an additional ballot type that then when you're at the voter precincts, I have to
But there's nobody there
But
to
if,
vote.
even if somebody homeless moved in and made a lot there, I have to create it as an address to give them a ballot.
Understood.
And so it's a different school district. So it's Calaveras Unified, and the southern side is Bret Hart. So it does create a new ballot type. So if it's no real difference to you,
No, I was just trying
it
to use
does
the
make
road.
extra stuff.
That's fine.
What about that walk down above the 20 day in that 0?
Yeah.
That's the same thing with the school district thing.
Is that a school district boundary?
Yeah, that line,
Yeah.
that hard line, that straight line that's hard like that across is the school district boundary across the county.
All right.
So if there's zeros, I would prefer to keep them on
That's,
their side. But I mean,
That makes sense why it looks like that right now.
okay.
I'm telling you all now.
Are you?
Doesn't mean you'll listen to me.
Okay, so that's school district. That's Calaveras Unified, huh?
That's Calaveras. That is.
I mean, why wouldn't you just go to...
we should keep that boundary across there for some reason.
Okay.
You think they would probably want to go over to Bret Hart?
I mean, they're 10 minutes from
They
Bret
already
Hart,
said
and
it.
30 from Calaveras.
Considering they're not getting anything for it, it's 0, no one lives. Some kids go to school and
Property tax.
So there's not APNs in this map for Doug to look up those 2 APNs. I'm pretty sure they ended up they were just south of Vallecito, so I'm pretty sure they ended up in District 4. If there was, for some reason, they were still on the boundary, can I make that adjustment to put them in District 4? Both APNs were 0. Does anyone have any strong?
Go ahead.
I think for Vallecito, the intent is the highway, and if you need to make minor adjustments, I would think Amanda and I wouldn't mind that.
Okay. I'm fairly certain they both ended up on the District 4 side. I just didn't want to ignore their comments, so.
so we started this looking for the 2 zeros that the city wanted to incorporate into.
That's the ones she just brought up
Those
again.
ones that you just showed right there?
I'm not sure.
They're going to have to check. This map doesn't have APNs, and so they're going to have to check. So do we want to talk about whether we're coming back in a week?
So So the suggestion would be, I guess Sarah's trying to lead me to say something here, that we publish this map as it is, making it clear that this is the map the board intends to adopt. And then we collect public comment for the next week and bring it back and see if you want to make further changes next Tuesday. And then we plan to bring it back for adoption on December 7th, assuming no changes are made after public comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that
Ms.
is the plan.
Follendorf? Mr. Toffenelli?
And if there are changes from the public comment, somebody brings up something good, we would push back to the 14th?
We actually wouldn't need to, presuming, so just to play this out, if there's some really great comments or comments that the board wants to make changes based on them that come out in the next week or at that meeting, we can make those tweaks, republish that amended draft, and the public will still be able to then comment on that draft prior to the board considering it for adoption on the 7th of December.
That's fine.
Yes.
Ms. Callaway?
Yes.
We have 5 yeses. Please. Yes, please.
And thank you very much.
It's been fun.
Good
Doug is
poker
saying
face.
that one of those APNs is in District 4 and the other is not. I see Ross Reservoir is in. Where's the one that's not? Okay, it's right in the middle of Vallecito, so I would recommend we don't make that change, obviously. Because Vallecito is now whole, so.
Which one?
Just having fun with it.
Is that number 4? It's a great one. It's where I would have started.
Just hop over from Arnold to West Point for lunch.
Wouldn't be the first time I did it,
That's why I have a Jeep. That's why I have a Jeep.
right? Because that's how I roll.
Thank you, that helped. I got it. All right, so is that a wrap?
Kept it clean.
I will publish this map. It should be out by tomorrow. And then we'll start collecting public comment. In
And
the
then-
meantime, I'll see you guys next Tuesday to see what public comment comes about.
All right, no problem, no problem.
Sorry.
And I'll close the public hearing. Let me grab my neat little thing here to remind myself what to say beyond supervisors' announcements. In compliance with Government Code 53232.3D, board members shall provide brief reports on any meetings attended at the expense of the local agency and may make other announcements or report out. Ms. Callaway.
Nothing to report.
Mr. Garamendi.
Nothing to report.
I'd like to report out that I attended the Hardwood Advisory Committee meeting last week. Got some questions for you after this that I would like to bring up, and it looks like we're organizing and possibly working with the planning department to implement some more information so as the board sees fit into the general plan. Mr. Toffenelli.
I have nothing to report at this time.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Follendorf. That's your job.
Supervisor Toffenelli and I attended COG last week, and we will be at the next COG meeting going over a strategic plan and hopefully layering county strategic plan into the COG strategic plan. Yeah.
With that, you all have a wonderful day. Thank you for the good work today.